Well, a very good evening, Kenya. It is the second day of July 2019, and you're right in time for our broadcast tonight. It's also Tuesday, and Sidebar is lined up for you straight after the news, because right here on NTV, the news and the facts come first.
And on Sidebar tonight, legislators Gadoni wa Mushomba, Mwambu Mabonga, Edwin Sifuna of ODM, and Barack Muluka of ANC Party are sitting with me. The hashtag is NTV Tonight. We have all the stories making headlines both nationally and internationally for you. But first, the headlines.
Tonight, Kenya Power staff stand accused. More than 20 accused customers in Power Bills scam tell DCI KPLC staff recruited them.
Plus, former agriculture PS explains his damning statement.
I can really, be that shallow, and pedestrian.
Lesiampe now denies stealing from his purported enemies.
And Safaricom CEO Bob Collymore cremated in a very private ceremony. Michael Joseph takes over in the interim.
Also tonight, a tough challenge getting to school. Ndarago residents' only link between two villages.
NTV Tonight with Ken Majungu and Zainab Ismail.
A very, very good evening and welcome to our broadcast. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Flora Atieno. And we begin tonight with the fraud at the Kenya Power Company involving Kenya Power staff, brokers and customers.
And owners of companies in the list of 200 companies and individuals under investigations and who have already been questioned by the DCI who have been implicated with the Kenya Power staff, claiming they made the first move in a scam that has seen the taxpayer lose millions of shillings.
And NTV's Seth Olale reports that 22 of them have already answered summons to appear before the Directorate of Criminal Investigations.
Directors of 22 entities and individuals have so far recorded statements at the DCI headquarters over the Kenya Power billing scandal. Among those interrogated by detectives from the Cybercrime Unit include directors of Sasini Coffee House Limited, Nairobi Women's Hospital, Dandora Catholic Church, Holy Cross Fathers, Restaurant Limited Grand Quality, Talent Graphics and Limited, General Bin Ali. Sources close to investigations have revealed that a majority of those questioned told detectives that they were approached by Kenya Power staff through brokers. The DCI, through a statement, says it is investigating allegations of fraud involving millions of shillings in Kenya Power in regards to the post-paid billing system through which funds were lost as a result of conspiracy between some Kenya Power staff, brokers and company consumers, in which over 5,000 benefited from the scandal. The entities and individuals implicated in the scam cut across the country's regions of Nairobi, Northeastern, North Rift, Central Rift, Coast, Western Kenya and South Nyanza regions.
The government also going just in circles. Sisi ndio tunaumia. We are paying paying for services we don't receive.
The 119 companies and 85 individuals summoned also include Safaricom Investments Cooperative Society, Moi University, and Eldoret Polytechnic, among others. Seth Olale, NTV.
And from the high voltage billing scam at Kenya Power to the equally shocking admission by suspended Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Richard Lesiampe, who may have had his foot in his mouth when he, over the weekend, admitted to have stolen from the public.
And in an apparent justification for his action, Lesiampe said he stole, but for his people. He now says these remarks had been taken out of context, but as Leila Mohammed now reports, it may not be the first time that leaders have claimed to do bad things in the name of the people.
an old English myth putting a legend dubbed Robin Hood, who stole from the rich to give to the poor, is probably the analogy that comes out of a clip where former PS Richard Lesiampe is quoted saying that he is not sorry for taking money away from public coffers into his own hands and handing them down to his people, a quote that he says was now misinterpreted.
And in fact, when that day when I actually spoke, I even said, and you will remember I said in Samburu, that Etua puro nano paeg, Etua purucho nano, Etua purucho, sijeiba. I actually repeated it 3 times. And then the rider was that, which is usually, translated in our mother tongue, that, I've not done it. And if you think I've done it, accuse me then.
But even though he denies ever admitting to theft, the weight of this statement still looms as a shadow over him.
When somebody says that, I've admitted stealing, while I've not been taken to court for stealing, there's no charge preferred against me on stealing. It's also ridiculous. Because there's no way I can actually admit something which I've not been charged of. In fact, I've not been charged of stealing. In fact, if anything, why I'm there is because of a budgetary issue.
The man who was the chief accounting officer at the Agriculture Ministry when he was suspended under a cloud of graft allegations against him says this statement was only meant to endear him to the people he was addressing.
30 years that I've been in government and private sector. And, there's no way I can really, be that shallow, and pedestrian to actually say in public that, I've grown big because of eating from other people.
At a time when the government is on the offensive in the war on graft, many have interpreted his statements as an overt glorification of impunity that has permeated the society. Many of those who step aside after facing graft allegations often seek public office. Others arrested over graft claim to be persecuted, terming the war on graft as a witch hunt. Lesiampe has denied the charges against him in court. He now says only the law will vindicate him. But his weakened sentiments may linger a while longer. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
And as Leila Mohammed is reporting, it's not the first time that a leader is saying or making such a claim in the name of the people. And this is one of the topics that we are putting into context on Sidebar, coming right after the news. So stay here and listen to what my panelists have to say about stealing in our name or doing something in the name of the people. Let's now move on to other stories. And Education Principal Secretary Belio Kipsang, his Treasury counterpart Kamau Thuge, and former National Lands Commission Chairperson Mohamud Swazuri are the faces behind the illegal payment of 1.5 billion shilling compensation for the Roraka land.
Now, the three are said to have helped process the payouts without following due process and resulted in the loss of taxpayers' funds. NTV's Silas Apollo reports on the scandal which just won't die, but which the courts now say could have been avoided.
It is a dispute that dates back years and now puts 3 senior government officials who are part of the scheme to award billions to a businessman illegally on the spot. 3 judges of the Environment Court say Education Principal Secretary Belio Kipsang, Treasury PS Kamau Thuge, and former National Lands Commission Chairman Mohammed Swazuri are the 3 who okayed the payments. The judges fault Swazuri for failing to carry out due diligence on the land before authorizing compensations, saying that a thorough search would have shown that the land was public property. The court argues that Swazuri's decision to start the compensation process based on a need to correct historical injustices was suspect, since one cannot purport to compulsory acquire what is already public land. Swazuri is accused of misleading the Ministry of Education into undertaking the acquisition that the court says was unnecessary. This is despite the Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Education at the time insisting on due diligence. Thuge, on the other hand, is said to have written to Kipsang, giving the green light for the payment of 1.5 billion shillings for the compensation. The Roraka land, on which Drive-In Primary School and Roraka High School sits on, has been at the center of a dispute pitting the ministry and businessman Francis Mburu. Mburu is said to have asked the government for a refund of the 13.77-acre parcel of land, which he says was taken away from him in the 80s. NLC moved to court last year to determine the validity of the title of the said land and whether the two schools sit on private land. And on Friday, the three judges say that NLC did not follow elaborate steps as stipulated in the Lands Act. They argued that no explanation was given by the companies which were compensated as to why they did not pursue the compensation in the 80s when the schools were established. That decision by the court on this parcel of land add to the many scars that have marred the career of former NLC chairman Mohamed Swazuri. Only that this time it adds two more people to that list. One only hopes that investigating agencies will step in and that justice will prevail. Silas Apollo, NTV, in Baraka, Nairobi County.
Right, with the legal opinion rendered, the obvious question is, what next, especially for that compensation? You know, a lot of people are thinking, what happens to the money that was paid out? Silas Apollo trying to answer the question, and of course it will be important to see what happens in the coming days. Now to that update on the death of Safaricom Chief Executive Officer, and it was a modest send-off for celebrated Safaricom Chief Executive Officer Bob Collymore, who was cremated in Kariakor at a private ceremony.
Only family and invited guests were allowed into the premises that was heavily guarded. Collymore died of cancer of the blood yesterday morning, and NTV's Sharon Baranga has the details.
At the Lee Funeral Home, family, friends and some colleagues of Safaricom's Chief Executive Officer Bob Collymore gathered for the final walk home. The last call and the last tears of a man who was as himself in death as he was in life. The last rites took place at the Kariakor crematorium. A bond severed when the sons of his time ran out in the early hours of Monday after a long and valiant battle with cancer. Collymore sought treatment and underwent a series of tests in some hospitals within the country before his doctor referred him to a hospital in London where he was diagnosed with cancer. At the Kariakor crematorium, only invited guests were allowed inside to pay their last respects, as it was a private function. Security manning the area ensured only those on the list of invites accessed the place. His body was then cremated.
Nimesikitua muno kwa usikia Collymore ameaga dunia. Alikuwa akihudumia msuli kwa Safaricom.
Collymore's memorial service will be held on Thursday at the All Saints Cathedral. He leaves behind his wife and 4 children.
Now, I'm going to challenge
Sharon Baranga, NTV.
and Jacob.
And in the meantime, Safaricom has picked its former Chief Executive Officer, Michael Joseph, as the company's interim CEO following the passing on of Bob Collymore yesterday.
But as Victor Kiprop now reports, Safaricom's board will have a tough call to make in choosing the next chief exec amid piling pressure from the government to have the telco pick a Kenyan as its head.
When he retired as Safaricom CEO in 2010, Michael Joseph had never imagined he would someday return to the helm of Kenya's most profitable company. But the death of his successor, Bob Collymore, would force the board to once again seek the services of the 67-year-old corporate titan.
Although the details of Bob's worsening condition were not always, they were private, they were not always being discussed at board level, but the board was aware that sooner or later we needed to organize succession for Bob.
In his 10 years at Safaricom, Joseph helped turn the company from a startup into one of the most profitable firms in the region, building its subscriber base to more than 16 million from just 17,000. But his successor, Bob Collymore, took the company to even greater heights, having raked in 63.4 billion shillings in net earnings for the full year ended March 2019. A figure larger than the profits of the country's top 4 banks combined. The Kenyan government, the second largest shareholder in the company with a 35% stake, is pushing to have a Kenyan as the next CEO of the firm, something that is unprecedented. Safaricom hasn't yet disclosed for how long Michael Joseph will be serving in the acting capacity, but one thing is for sure, the entire country will be watching closely to see who will be picked to fill the big shoes left behind by Bob Collymore. Victor Kiprop, NTV Business, Naro.
Of course, all eyes are on Safaricom right now, and two expatriates have proven themselves beyond reasonable doubt worthy to be at the helm of East Africa's most profitable company, that is Safaricom. While one steered the company from inception, the other took the reins and drove innovation through data, mobile money and e-commerce.
The foundation has been laid, the direction mapped out, the strategy in place, and the vision could not be clearer. But who will be next in line for Kenya's most prestigious corporate position? Well, will it be a Kenyan, or will the company still bank on the expertise of expatriates? And does it matter who heads this telecommunications behemoth?
Well, to have the answers to all these questions, grab your copy of the Daily Nation tomorrow for expert analysis on the succession battles at Safaricom.
Well, definitely hope to catch your copy of the Daily Nation tomorrow for more details on that. Now, Taita Taveta Governor Granton Samboja becomes the second governor in Kenya's contemporary history of devolution to petition the president to dissolve his county.
Now, Granton accuses the county assembly of wielding its oversight role as a weapon to bend the county's executive to its will. He, however, is not the only governor who has opted to pull the plug on the whole system.
An apt illustration of devolution's checkered legacy amid fears that unfettered powers by the MCAs could be killing devolution.
I, Honorable Granton Samboja, the governor of this great county, duly elected by the majority of the voters in the last general election, in utmost humility, call upon all the residents of this county to turn out in large numbers and show solidarity in the quest to petition His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya to dissolve our county government to give us a fresh start.
Caught between a wall and a cliff, Governor Granton Samboja claims to have been pushed over the edge by a band of money-grabbing members of the Taita Taveta County Assembly.
I call upon every voter to assist me salvage our great county from our very own county assembly members who have done everything possible to stand on our way of development.
What are they hiding? So that they can meet with guns and shoot citizens of Makueni.
Governor Samboja isn't the first to resort to the nuclear option because the centre would not hold. Makueni Governor Kifutha Kibwana in 2014, unwilling to stomach constant threats of impeachment by a county assembly he felt was doing more harm than good for the people they were elected to represent, also pulled the trigger. The very same threats Governor Samboja claims have been made against him and his entire executive committee for failing to keep the MCAs happy. Threats of impeachment against governors are nothing new when the legislative and executive arms fail to see eye to eye on how the county pie should be shared out.
Order! Leave in silence! Order!
This was evident on Tuesday afternoon when members of the Nairobi County Assembly disrupted the assembly business to force the county executive to allocate monies for bursaries. Samboja, at the end of his rope, says he will not be blackmailed into allocating 830 million to the County Ward Development Fund and would rather see an end to the county government. An assertion met with contempt by the MCAs he's accused of being a hindrance to progress.
I'm not happy at all about what he's doing. Na aelewe kwamba sisi tuko ground. Yeye aendelee kufanya his political gimmicks na side shows, lakini we are just intact. The funny part of the governor is that what is not understanding, tumeshikilia kisu. Yeye naye anataka kutupokonya kisu, ameshikilia pali sharp. What is going to happen? Vidole vyake ndio vitakatika.
Olive Barrows, NTV.
Well, interesting views from the MCAs
Very
and the governor. Very interesting. And the unending wrangles between those governors and the members of the county assemblies in various counties has proven to be a hindrance to the running operations within the counties.
But do we really know the exact roles of the MCAs? Well, according to Section 9 of the County Governments Act, MCAs are responsible for maintaining close contact with the electorate and consulting them on issues before or under discussion in the county assemblies.
Now, they are also supposed to present their views, opinions and proposals of the electorate to the county assembly. They are also expected to attend sessions of the county assembly and its committees to provide a linkage between the county assembly and the electorate on public service delivery and to extend professional knowledge, experience or specialized knowledge to any issue for discussion in the county assemblies.
So that's what you should expect of your MCA.
And the stalemate over the 2019-2020 Kisumu budget estimates has taken a new twist after Kisumu Deputy Governor Matthews Owili accused the County Assembly Speaker Onyango Oloo of inciting the Assembly members to disapprove the budget estimates.
And Zoko Kusa now reports the row has continued even as Governor Anyang' Nyong'o's government stared at a financial crisis following the delay in approval of the 10 billion shillings budget.
We are aware that the process of making this particular budget has been hampered greatly because of the insistence of the Speaker.
The tough-talking Owili told off the Speaker, whom he accused of demanding that the executive allocates 600 million shillings to construct an ultra-modern assembly.
We shall not involve ourselves in illegalities to massage one person's ego, whose intention is clearly not for the common good of the people of Kisumu.
Oloo had given the Finance Executive Officer, Neri Achar, up to today to furnish the Budget Committee with a list of pending bills as at June 30th, 2019. He directed that the Executive present a detailed list of contractors, projects undertaken, year awarded, and amount to be paid.
These demands are for the good of our county because as the people's representatives, whatever decision that we make must be that puts the county towards a growth trajectory.
However, the DG maintained that the executive was committed to a budget-making process that complied with the relevant laws.
We are also aware that the Speaker is currently having issues that is in public domain that have been raised about him by the EACC, and at this point I want to advise him that is not the person better placed to advise the executive on anything corruption.
But in a quick rejoinder, a section of MCS faulted the DG for making what they termed as disparaging remarks against them.
And some people were just flower girls who were, the other day were made to be deputy governor because if the ticket was not done by the Honorable His Excellency the Governor, could not even be elected as even a chair of a cattle dip. They have never stood anywhere to win any election.
Another area of contention is the donor support fundings or grants.
We are aware that there are some grants that are not disclosed. And when we touch them and appropriate them in a different way, we get concerns from different quarters that we are doing the wrong thing. So, before we pass the budget, we want to see all the conditional grants Kisumu County government is getting and to what the functions they are doing.
But according to the executive, most of the donor support fundings are ring-fenced at the agreement signing stage, and therefore it is impossible to interfere or reallocate the monies to other projects. Okukusa, NTV.
And following those unending wrangling between MCAs and county governors, we're asking tonight on our opinion count question, do you believe MCAs are the biggest impediment of the success of devolution? I ask again, do you believe MCAs are the biggest impediment to the success of devolution?
And of course, you can participate in our broadcast by joining the conversation at NTV Kenya on Twitter, at Zainab Ismail, at Ken Mijungu, and the hashtag we're using tonight is NTV Tonight. So join the conversation, share with us your opinion. We'll definitely be sampling some of them before the end of this live broadcast. But time now for a short break. But coming up on the other side, a delicate balancing act and the tough challenge of getting to school for the children of Ndaragwa.
AMD Realtors presents you Nanyuki Heavens Phase 2. Buy a plot at 270,000 and save 70,000. Book a plot with 50,000, balance in 2 months. All cash buyers will get another plot absolutely free during the open day. Every plot is clearly marked and beaconed. Electricity and water available. There is a 60-day money-back guarantee on your title deed. Text Nanyuki to 40299 or call us on 0709 789 000. Open day on Saturday, 6th July 2019. AMG Realtors. Integrity.
The aerial guarantee.
Asante sana. Sasa, ni nini kingine ambacho unaweza kumfanyia msichana wetu?
Kila kitu. Hata kufua nguo na aerial mpya.
Basi, tuonyeshe.
Sasa fanya haya madoa yawe sugu zaidi. Sasa tufue kwa kutumia sabuni yako na kutumia Ariel mpya. Ariel sasa inapatikana kwenye pakiti mpya.
Ariel huondoa madoa sugu kwa mwosho mmoja. Jaribu leo ndio uamini au urudishiwe pesa zako.
Okash is the quickest and easiest way to request short-term loans from your mobile phone whenever you need them. You can borrow up to 50,000 Kenya shillings in 1 day and choose between a 14 or 28-day term to repay it at a fair interest rate that adjusts to your needs. Okash connects seamlessly with your M-Pesa account to facilitate and speed up your loan requests. Download Okash today from Google Play Store and join thousands of Kenyans enjoying the Okash experience.
The thrill, the passion, the laughter, the convenience, the memories. For all this and more, visit www.jambolife.com. Create and manage events with your ticketing partner of choice. Buy tickets to the latest events and enjoy. Powered by Jambo Pay.
Jumia Anniversary Sale is live now. Amazing deals on your favorite brands. Get this Bro microwave for only 2,999 at 9 a.m. and Techno Camon 11 32GB for 11,499. Don't miss out. Sales last till the 14th of July. Jumia, the online shop you can trust.
When the spirit of Kenya got going that magical day, it never looked back. And now, the same spirit is ready to take Kenya to the next level, led proudly by a new generation. Kenya King, Shangilia, Hustle ya Kenya.
Hiyo ni private property. Awiti hiyo nakaa salon.
Kuja hapa, hakuna kitu nanunua hapa. Kuja. Awiti my girl. Uko tu na spirit ya kupiga studio. Unaona hiyo spirit? Beba unyo uende uoshe hiyo choo ingare.
Take it. Relax.
I know I look amazing. It is my new hairdresser.
Okash is the quickest and easiest way to request short-term loans from your mobile phone whenever you need them. You can borrow up to 50,000 Kenya shillings in 1 day and choose between a 14 or 28-day term to repay it. Download Okash today from Google Play Store, enjoying the Okash experience.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Flora Atieno, and there is news just in for us, Ken.
All right, news just in from State House and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is that His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta has appointed Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, the former Vice President of Kenya, as a special envoy to the Republic of South Sudan. This appointment is in furtherance of Kenya's commitment towards shared prosperity in the region and in general, and to the pursuit of lasting peace and security in South Sudan through the acceleration of the implementation of the revitalized agreement on conflict resolution in South Sudan in particular. Now, this is the appointment of Dr. Kalonzo Musyoka from President Uhuru Kenyatta this evening as a special envoy to the Republic of South Sudan. You know, this is not the first time Kalonzo is doing work in South Sudan. Actually, he was very instrumental in peace building that led to even the independence of that country. So it's not the first time.
All right, and definitely a story will continue to keep you updated on. But away from that, residents from Kahudha and Ngameni villages in Ndaragwa constituency of Nyandarua County have called on the government to move with speed and erect a bridge that connects the two villages crossing River Pesi.
Anxious parents hold their breath and whisper a prayer for their children as they go to school in the morning and in the evening when they come back.
There is no proper bridge, so children have to walk in groups as they cross the bridge early in the morning. And as Rose Wangui reports, it's quite the delicate balancing act.
At the crack of dawn, with most of the sky still dark, children in the sleepy village of Ndaragwa constituency prepare themselves for a treacherous walk to school. With their books stashed in backpacks, the children walk down the valley to and from home, but the excitement fades and turns into fear when they reach River Pesi, a river that snakes between rocks and heavy vegetation in the village separating Kahudha and Ngamini villages. They walk in groups, and as they come nearer, the path narrows, forcing them to form a single file towards the tree bridge. Here, they hold hands as they cross sideways to the other side. The brave ones carry the smaller children on their backs. They cross the bridge when the log is wet with dew, and it is easy to slip and fall. Good balance is essential for getting to class. The children are pupils at Wangoi Primary School.
Wazazi ni lazima wasidikishe watoto wao kuwapeleka shuleni.
Our pupils who are more than that, who come from the other part of the river, normally come late. Sometimes do not come when the river overflows during the rainy season, and they suffer a lot.
Hapa kuna wakati mwingine unakuta hata watoto wameanguka hapa kwa mto, tunaenda kuwatolea huku nje, huku chini.
Residents claim that a footbridge that they were using to cross the river passes through a privately owned land.
And right now he wants his rod back. So this is the only option which is left.
Residents claim that the county government of Nyandarua had allocated 5 million shillings for the construction of a bridge at the site, but the cash was diverted to another project. For now, they have to contend with this reality and cope with the situation as they await the government to come to their rescue. Ruzungoi, NTV.
And we hope certainly something can be done as quick as possible.
It's very risky even for the children, and they have the courage of a lion just to go over that bridge. And the fact that the parents have to say a prayer, you know, every day, I think it's very practical when it comes to kids. Right, let's get some news from the corridor of justice. And blogger Robert Alai Onyango could face a life sentence for publishing photographs of police officers who were killed in an attack in Wajir last month.
The controversial blogger, who has been under investigation by the Anti-Terrorism Police Unit, denied 2 counts of treachery and disclosure of information against the law.
He was released on a 300,000 shilling cash bail after being in detention for 14 days. On the 17th of June, the blogger shared a photograph of a dead police officer on social media, an act which the prosecution says was meant to interfere with the maintenance of public order within the country.
He is also accused of disclosing information about a dead officer to the public via Twitter, an act that was likely to prejudice the investigations.
Now, his case will be heard on the 8th of August.
And still in courts and away from the courts, Kenya is locked in another territorial dispute, this time with South Sudan over the mineral-rich disputed Ilemi Triangle.
Leaders from Kenya and South Sudan have set up a joint cooperation mechanism to ensure the long-standing border dispute between the two states is resolved amicably and diplomatically.
This follows constant feuds between the Toposa community of South Sudan and Kenya's Turkana community. The leaders are now calling on both governments to fast-track the implementation of the agreed border framework, as well as design and implement joint cross-border development programs.
The two countries would want to use the available instrument, which is the MOU that has been developed, to now enable us amicably define that border. And I want to assure you, with the process we are now taking, the two countries, with the leadership of the two presidents, will deliver a solution.
The border is known, and I'm sure Kenya have the map, and also South Sudan have a map. But these issues are all brought by the communities along the borders, because you know all the African border countries were demarcated by the colonials without consulting the communities.
Right, time now for another break, but coming up,
we tell you why the shilling is losing value against the dollar.
Jumia Anniversary Sale is live now. Amazing deals on your favorite brands. Get this Bro microwave for only 2,999 at 9 a.m. and Techno Camon 11 32GB for 11,499. Don't miss out. Sales last till the 14th of July. Jumia, the online shop you can trust.
I told you to kick it more to the left. No, kick it higher. No, to the left. Come on, guys, stop it. Remember the win.
OneXBet, African betting partner of Tottenham Hotspur.
Join Telkom today and share life on our expanded 4G network. Telkom, moving with you.
Making my family some nutritious porridge is a painstaking process. First, I have to find all the ingredients needed, and there are many. For vitamins, proteins, and minerals, I need cassava, sorghum, millet. You no longer need to go through all that to make nutritious porridge. All you need is NutriPro.
You don't have to go through the trouble of finding, measuring, and weighing all these vital ingredients. New NutriPro porridge flour comes fortified with 13 vitamins, proteins, and minerals. This means that you have more time to focus on what's important, giving your family the healthy start they deserve. NutriPro, bringing families together. From Tropical brand.
Taste imeweza na bei imeweza. Streetwise 2 is now at 350 shillings.
Wow.
2 pieces of original recipe or hot and crispy chicken and regular chips. To enjoy this offer, visit any of our restaurants in Nairobi, Nakuru, Nanyuki, Kisumu and Eldoret. For delivery, you can place your order through the KFC delivery app or call on 0722 532 532. Meal fiti at 350. It's finger licking good.
Who wants to answer? Mary?
Mary has a toothache.
Oh, I see. And who knows why?
Because her tooth is too big.
No, it might be a hole in her tooth called a cavity. That's why I brush twice a day using Colgate. Imagine this is your tooth and these are food acids that cause cavities. Colgate with calcium and fluoride helps prevent cavities for maximum cavity protection. And now available in a 12-gram sachet for fresh breath. Only 15 shillings.
When the spirit of Kenya got going that magical day, it never looked back. And now, the same spirit is ready to take Kenya to the next level, led proudly by a new generation. Kenya Kin, Shangilia, Hustle ya Kenya.
It is time to get down to business. Welcome, I am Julian Amboko, and let's start on the foreign exchange market. The shillings exchange to the dollar averaged 102.7 units on Tuesday, pushing it to its lowest point since the start of January 2018. This puts the loss of value since the start of the year, that is 2019, at 1 percentage point, with a significant loss having taken place since the decline of foreign exchange reserves on June 24, 2019. This trend of depreciation shifts focus to the Central Bank of Kenya, which is set to hold its Mid-Year Monetary Policy Committee meeting on the 24th of this month. And moving on, the counties of Isiolo, Tana River and Siaya have been ranked as the top 3 counties flouting procurement laws in the country. According to a report by the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority, none of the 30 county governments assessed have been complying with the procurement law. The authority also ranked National Museums of Kenya and the Sacco Society's Regulatory Authority among the corporates that have not submitted their procurement records. Lillian Kiaria with more details on that story.
The report by the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority outlined 12 counties and 9 parastatals which are flouting public procurement laws. The performance of Kilifi, West Pokot, Kitui, Kajiado, Elgeyo Marakwet, Garissa, Machakos, Tharaka Nithi and Marsabit County was also below 50%.
Lack of procurement plans. 2, non-adherence to the procurement plan.
Narok County was the only one ranked as partially compliant with a score of 80.3%, while 17 other counties, among them Mombasa, Kwale, Nyamira and Meru, were ranked as marginally compliant.
You want to give preference to persons with disabilities, to women, to disadvantaged and marginalized sectors of our community. How is that person going to survive if they actually succeed in a tender, win government business at whatever level, and then they are starved of money for 3 years?
The report for the 9 months between June 2018 to March 2019 ranked the National Museums of Kenya and the Sacco Society's Regulatory Authority among the state corporations which were non-compliant. The audit, which only involved 30 counties, saw some of Kenya's richest counties missing out. This include Nairobi, Nakuru and Naivasha. The authority now says that they will include this in the next financial audits. Lillian Kiarie, NTV.
And on to matters aviation, Kenya Airways has entered into a partnership agreement with General Electric Aviation to adopt its flight operations suite of digital products across the airline's fleet. The flight operations suite is a technology that integrates various operational data, including flight details, weather forecast, and navigation, among others, and is expected to enable KQ track its operations and fuel consumptions in order to cut on costs. Fuel expenses are estimated to take about 30% of KQ's total expenditure. And getting back to matters counties now, the counties of Kakamega and Machakos have passed their budgets worth 14.9 billion and 12 billion shillings respectively, even as disbursements of funds from national government remains uncertain. In the last full year report from the Controller of Budget, Kakamega's on-source revenue stood at 4% of the total expenditure, while that of Machakos stood at 14%, raising question about the ability of counties to meet their operational expenses, given the delay of disbursement of funds from the national government. Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya has expressed confidence that the stalemate will be resolved, and on his part, his Machakos counterpart, Governor Alfred Mutua, has called for prudent use of resources.
There is no need of the county assembly working very hard, the executive working very hard, our budgets being worked very hard, and then they are stolen. So we will have to be very careful to ensure that there is value for money.
And you can get more on that story from tomorrow's Business Daily. But moving on, the Board of National Bank of Kenya says that the various operational challenges it has been facing arise not from poor management, but from undercapitalization. The bank says it has a strong liquidity at 20% above the regulatory minimum, but its capital ratios are below the regulatory minimums. The board has put the bank's two principal shareholders, that is the National Treasury and the National Social and Security Fund, on the spot for failing to inject fresh capital at its time of need. Further, the board says the non-performing loans ratio has increased due to a decline in the total loan book as a result of capital limitation. The bank has admitted that for the last 5 years, it has had capital adequacy challenges. These revelations are contained in the bank's response to the National Assembly's Committee on Finance and National Planning on matters pertaining to the proposed merger with KCB. And finally, Kenya is looking towards partnering with South Sudan in providing renewable energy solution for Africa's youngest nation. Kenya is hopeful that the Juba government will be inclined to collaborate with Kenya as it seeks renewable energy solutions for its citizens. President Salva Kiir led a delegation of South Sudanese officials on a tour of the 10-acre Mai Mahiu dry port land and the Olkaria geothermal wells in Naivasha, Nakuru County. Kenya is Africa's leading geothermal energy producer and is among the top 10 globally.
A technology that was spearheaded by Kengen, and this now...
And up next, we have the financial report. And that's all from the business desk tonight, but still to come. We tell you why Indonesia is pushing back against the torrent of waste from Europe and the US. Stay with us.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom
for me and you.
I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. What a wonderful world.
This is Motor Hub, ultimately Kenya's finest car dealer company. Our cars are carefully sourced and selected, backed up with excellent skilled personnel. Our aim is to ensure value for your money as well as peace of mind.
When it comes to affordability check, reliability check, finance check, quality defined check, any type of car check. Whenever you need that dream car, tutembele. Mambo hapa yamenyooka nyoro nyoro.
So, are you in need of a car? Now you know. Motor Hub, we are quality redefined.
Okash is the quickest and easiest way to request short-term loans from your mobile phone whenever you need them. You can borrow up to 50,000 Kenya shillings in one day and choose between a 14 or 28-day term to repay it at a fair interest rate that adjusts to your needs. Okash connects seamlessly with your M-Pesa account to facilitate and speed up your loan requests. Download Okash today from Google Play Store and join thousands of Kenyans enjoying the Okash experience.
Je, maumivu ya kichwa na kukosesha amani? Kaluma Strong hutuliza maumivu ya kichwa, maumivu ya mwili na hata huondoa joto jingi mwilini. Kaluma Strong ina aspirin kama kiungo. Maumivu yakizidi, muone daktari.
It's about ensuring that we live with the right dosage that will ensure you feel better and healthier so that you can enjoy every moment with those around you.
Good Life. We're all about you.
When the spirit of Kenya got going that magical day, it never looked back. And now, the same spirit is ready to take Kenya to the next level, led proudly by a new generation. Kenya King, Shangilia, Hustle ya Kenya.
And welcome back. Time now to cross the borders internationally. And these are the other news making headlines around the world. A wall has collapsed, killing 27 people following heavy rains in India as bad weather disrupts rail, air traffic and road in the capital of Mumbai.
Now, Mumbai struggles to cope with annual monsoon rains as widespread construction and garbage-clogged drains and waterways make it increasingly vulnerable to chaos.
India experiences a fatal incident of buildings and walls collapsing as rainfall weakened the foundations of the poorly built structures.
A similar incident on Saturday claimed 15 lives.
And 49 containers which were loaded with a combination of garbage, plastic waste and hazardous materials were returned to France and other developed countries as Southeast Asian nations increasingly reject serving as dumping grounds for international trash.
Around 300 million tons of plastic are produced every year, according to the Worldwide Fund for Nature, with much of it ending up in landfills or polluting the seas in what has become a growing international crisis.
Let's take a look at an example like China's decision in 2018 to ban imports of foreign plastic waste through global recycling into chaos.
Well, the national football team was thrashed by Senegal in its last AFCON group match in what is going to come up in just a moment.
Right, that coming up after the break, and find out how the players have gotten a treat to ease the pain.
Buy a plot at 270,000 and save 70,000. Book a plot with 50,000. Balance in 2 months. All cash buyers will get another plot absolutely free. AMG Realtors. Integrity.
When the spirit of Kenya got going that magical day, it never looked back. And now, the same spirit is ready to take Kenya to the next level, led proudly by a new generation. Kenya King, Shangilia, Hustle ya Kenya.
The Nation Leadership Forum is an interactive high-profile event which provides a platform to spotlight issues affecting Kenyans.
Open the news and you see Kenyans fighting over flour. It is life and death.
The forum has so far taken on different topical issues.
Men are running away from their responsibility.
The ladies have a sense of entitlement to these opportunities already. The boy child cannot take it anymore.
Manufacturing, election preparedness.
Can there be an incentive of how efficient that system is?
Food security, health.
Kenya, like the rest of Africa, is 50% short of doctors.
We want houses that are affordable at the same time habitable.
Education.
Education in any country is as good as the quality of the teachers.
And power of youth to drive progress.
How many of us have really gone to ask our youth, what are you passionate about?
We will be looking forward to most of the youth helping us so that the money goes into the pockets of the young people for purposes of their empowerment and not empowering a few merchants of Venice.
The Nation Leadership Forum focuses on finding possible solutions to the socio-economic issues experienced in the country.
We must plan together, reason together, and come up with solutions that will make us one proud, healthy nation.
Nation Leadership Forum, engaging society, impacting the nation.
Hiyo ni private property. Awiti hiyo nakaa salon.
Kuja hapa, hakuna kitu nanunua hapa. Kuja.
Awiti my girl. Uko tu na spirit ya kupiga studio. Unaona hiyo spirit? Beba unaona uende uache hiyo choo ing'are.
Take it. Relax.
I know I look amazing. It is my new hairdresser.
Okash is the quickest and easiest way to request short-term loans from your mobile phone whenever you need them. You can borrow up to 50,000 Kenya shillings in one day and choose between a 14 or 28-day term to repay it. Download Okash today from Google Play Store, enjoying the Okash experience.
And a very good evening to you. I'm Sean Carter-Villas with the latest sports news. Now, tonight we start our bulletin by celebrating the national men's basketball team, who are the 2019 FIBA Africa Zone 5 champions. For their historic win, the Morans bagged tickets to the Afro Basketball Championships to be staged in Mali later this month, as well as the 2019 Africa Games to be held in Morocco in August. To ice the cake, Denmark-based professional Tyler Okari was named the championship's most valuable player. The women's national team, the Gazelles, finished second and booked an Afro Basketball Championships ticket in Senegal. Now, Ivory Coast captain Geoffroy Serre deflected a thunderbolt that aided his side to emerge 4-1 winners over Namibia. And that's our goal of the day.
Long-range effort from Serre. Oh, it's a wonderful strike. Took a wicked deflection. And Serre, the captain, makes it 2-0 for the Côte d'Ivoire. Fine strike on him, and the Ivorian fans jumping with joy. And that makes sense, really. He's given too much space.
All right, just to let you know that Harambee Stars failed to make it to the last 16 of the Africa Cup of Nations. They failed to make it among the 4 best losers at the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations. But the team was today treated to a luncheon by the River Nile in Cairo by the Sports Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed. Brian O'Toole attended the luncheon and filed this report.
Harambee Stars' 3-0 loss to Senegal in their last tie in Group C of the Africa Cup of Nations laid bare the gaps in Kenyan football in comparison to the top-ranked teams in the continent.
I'm disappointed because every time a coach wants to win.
A luncheon hosted by the sports CS Amina Mohammed and Kenyan ambassador to Egypt, Geoff Otieno by River Nile, eased the Stars players of anxiety of waiting to know if they have made it to the round of 16.
We never planned to be here for 2019. We said that it was a bonus for us. But look, when we got there, we stepped forward and did a good job. I think the players also did well. We had a lot of things to learn from. Kenyans have to accept that. It's a process.
It's good homework for us. We need to improve the facilities. And I think that it did not take us coming to Cairo to do that. We knew, right, while still at home, that we need to improve the infrastructure. I think I understand that it's a journey. It's a journey.
Kenya's chances of qualifying as one of the best group stage losers now lie in the mercy of Mali and Cameroon, who are set to play their closest challengers Angola and Benin respectively.
Tumecheza against unajua quality opponents, Algeria, Senegal. So it's a learning process unajua for everyone in this team. Na tuna hope with this experience itatusaidia even in our upcoming matches. Na let's just continue being positive na work hard.
We've learned a lot as a team, and it's difficult. You know, we need to learn fast and then go ahead, because now we don't have another. Maybe we don't have another chance. We don't know if we have another chance, but we know for sure in the future we'll have another qualification, and hopefully we can cut off the things that we did badly.
A first-time experience for the 23 players, lessons the Harambee Stars will carry, even as they seek to keep alive hopes of a 2021 Africa Cup of Nations participation and perhaps the World Cup in 2022. Brian O'Toole, NTV, reporting from Cairo, Egypt.
All right, just to let you know, of course, Harambee Stars are officially out of the running to advance to the round of 16, as we just mentioned a moment ago. And that was as one of the 4 best third-place teams. And that followed Benin's goalless draw with Cameroon in Group F at the Africa Cup of Nations. In the other Group F game, 2 second-half goals from Jordan Ayew and Thomas Partey ensured Ghana advanced to the knockout stage as Group F winners. Despite poor second-round results, Angola play Mali and Mauritania take take on Tunisia at 10 p.m. in the final round of group games. The tournament will then take a 2-day break and resume on Friday for the knockout stage. Athletics World Half Marathon record holder Jocelyn Chepkoskei recorded a time of 15 minutes 19.1 seconds to win the women's 5,000 meters final on day one of the Kenya Defence Forces Athletics Championship. In the pick of the first day results, Vedich Cheriot won the men's 10,000 meters final, while Jerioth Gathogo of Moi Air Base clinched the women's 100 meters hurdles title. Among the standout events for day two will be the finals of the women's 3,000 meters steeplechase. The championships that saw archery introduced for the first time will run until Thursday and see the top four in each race advance to the World Championship national qualifiers, which is set for mid-August at the same venue. The 2019 Stanbic Bank National Sevens Circuit will kick off on the 21st of July with the Kakamega Sevens at the Bull Ring. Ahead of the kickoff, the circuit, that's an annual series of rugby sevens tournaments run by the Kenya Rugby Union in conjunction with host clubs across the country, has received a 14.35 million shilling sponsorship from Stanbic Bank. In the new arrangement, the hosting clubs will each receive 1.4 million shillings, up from the 1 million received last year. Additionally, the players will compete for a total combined purse of 1.25 million shillings over 6 legs.
The fact that they are willing and able to commit for 2 years signifies that they have found the partnership to meet their objectives.
Defending champion Carl Flash Tundo, the African Championship leader Manvir Barian, and rally legend Ian Duncan will lead the Kenyan charge at the 2019 Safari Rally. The rally, which is a test event for the World Rally Championship status, has today received a 50 million Kenya shilling sponsorship from KCB. The quest to return the Safari Rally to the World Rally Championship revs off on Friday at the Kasarani Stadium, with President Uhuru Kenyatta conducting the ceremonial flag-off.
We've learnt our lessons. We have known the cost of dropping out, so we intend not to drop out.
52 entries have been confirmed for the event that also doubles up as the 4th round of the Africa Rally Championship. In what is good news, the Safari Rally has attracted interest globally, not just from fans, but also manufacturers competing in the WRC.
4 works teams, WRC teams, will be sending their crews here for recce. That's Toyota, Hyundai, Citroen, and M-Sport or Ford.
This year's Safari, which will be a 2020 World Rally Championship candidate event, has the support of the government to the tune of 300 million shillings, given that the return of the Safari to the WRC was a Jubilee Party campaign promise. In addition, the head of the Presidential Delivery Unit, Nzioka Waita, will be competing, and he'll be navigated by former NTV business anchor and reporter Laban Cliff on Serio.
Rais Uhuru Kenyatta ataweza kufika pale katika uga wa Kasarani kuweza kuanzisha rasmi mashindano hayo.
Corporate sponsors are also racing to be part of history, and KCB has put in 50 million Kenya shillings to the event.
It's had a beautiful and rich history, and as a brand that is part of this region and that has been around for over 100 years, we thought it was a perfect partnership.
The reconnaissance for the drivers and navigators will be held on Wednesday and Thursday, with the event getting underway on Friday with a super special spectator stage around the Kasarani complex. Brazil battled with Argentina early Wednesday Kenyan time in the first Copa America semi-final, and to add spice to the age-old rivalry, the semi-final match will be played at the same ground where Brazil lost 7-1 to Germany in the 2014 World Cup semi-final.
Brazil Copa America 2019 in association with StarTimes.
All is set for the South American Super Classico that sees Brazil face off against Argentina. It is a fixture older than the Copa America itself. The tension and animosity between both has always been an important part of their rivalry. The last time the two met was October 2018 for a friendly in Saudi Arabia, when Miranda scored a stoppage time winner in a 1-0 Brazil victory. That game did not feature Lionel Messi due to his post-World Cup break from the national team. Despite all of its issues, Argentina can at least claim to be one of only 2 teams to have beaten the host nation since Chiche joined in 2016 during a June 2017 friendly in Australia. Brazil returns to a stadium that hosted the team's darkest memories in another semi-final, the 7-1 destruction at the hands of Germany in the 2014 World Cup. Chiche knows that Brazilians will look at this game against Argentina as a chance, in part, to redeem themselves and restore a sense of national pride as they strive to lift the trophy on home soil. The match will be at 3:30 a.m. Kenya time.
Brazil Copa America 2019 in association with StarTimes.
The Brazil 2019 Copa America is here from 14th June to 7th July. Don't switch remotes.
StarTimes, the new home of football.
All right, that's the latest sports news. Back to you, Zain and Ken.
Right, thanks very much for that. And of course, earlier on, we asked you the question on our opinion count. Do you believe members of County Assembly are the biggest impediment to the success of devolution? The question is, are the MCAs the biggest impediment to devolution?
And of course, we've got quite a number of opinion and answers on our social media platforms. We're going to sample some of those. And at Man Jenga saying, MCAs have and will never be a hindrance to devolution. The governors have the cake and always apply any available tactic to make the MCAs yawn more. Referendum is the way to go. We need it to drive some sense in the governors and the MCAs. At Hillary Cheruyot saying no, actually they have been encumbrance to governors who want to purloin resources set aside to common Mwananchi. MCAs to us at the ground are our watchdogs.
All right, and for you who say they believe they are the biggest impediment, Jackson Mbeti says, personally, I believe MCAs are a hindrance to the success of devolution due to self-interest and greed. Some are elected to enrich themselves, nothing else after that. And finally, Mbugus Waringa from Gatundu South says, yes, for me, since I voted for my MCA in 2017, I've never seen him. I don't know even if he does exist. MCA positions are a waste of our resources. The government is biting more than it can chew because of the MCA's position.
All right, and those are your remarks. Continue sending us more feedback on our social media platforms. The conversation online continues, and this is where we wrap up our NTV tonight. But remember, Sidebar is coming right up your way, and a very fiery panel I can see well. My name is Zainab Ismail. Our sign language interpreter this evening was Flora Atieno. Good night.
All right, thanks Zain very much. And of course, it's time for Sidebar, and my guests are already in studio. Let me introduce them, and I'm just disappointed to learn that Gathoni wa Mushomba, who we expected to be here with us this evening, is not coming for the show. So it's a real disappointment. But I have the gentlemen here, Edwin Sifuna, Mheshimiwa from Bumula, and of course Barak. They are here to discuss several issues. Key among them, I know you want to hear about this, that assassination allegations against the deputy president. Apart from that, we'll be discussing the developments in the world of politics, what's happening, and of course the handshake must feature prominently in this. We'll be asking the right questions and they'll be answering those questions. Stay with us. Sidebar is back in a moment.
And now, the same spirit is ready to take Kenya to the next level, led proudly by a new generation. Kenya Kin, Shangilia, Hustle ya Kenya.
Avoid sleeping outside or in an area where mosquitoes are likely to breed. If you are sleeping in a tent, ensure it's not damaged and keep it closed at all times.
kila usiku ninasisitiza kutumia Baygon Multi-Insect Killer kwa kinga ya mbu sugu kabla ya kulala. Hivyo, ninajua kuwa wapendwa wangu watalala wakiwa wamekingwa. Baygon ni vizuri kuwa sugu dhidi ya mbu wanaoweza kuwa na malaria. SC Johnson, a family company.
Hiyo ni private property. Awiti hiyo nakaa salon.
Kuja hapa, hakuna kitu tunanunua hapa. Kuja. Awiti my girl. Uko tu na spirit ya kufuga studio. Unaona hiyo spirit? Beba unyo uende uoshe hiyo choo ing'are.
Aya. Take it. Relax.
I know I look amazing. It is my new hairdresser.
Okash is the quickest and easiest way to request short-term loans from your mobile phone whenever you need them. You can borrow up to 50,000 Kenya shillings in one day and choose between a 14 or 28-day term to repay it. Download Okash today from Google Play Store, enjoying the Okash experience.
The Nation Leadership Forum is an interactive high-profile event which provides a platform to spotlight issues affecting Kenyans.
Open the news and you see Kenyans fighting over flour. It is life and death.
The forum has so far taken on different topical issues.
Men are running away from their responsibility.
The ladies have a sense of entitlement to these opportunities already. The boy child cannot take it anymore.
Manufacturing, election preparedness.
Can there be an incentive of how efficient that system is?
Food security, health.
Kenya, like the rest of Africa, is 50% short of doctors.
We want houses that are affordable and at the same time habitable.
Education.
Education in any country is as good as the quality of the teachers.
And power of youth to drive progress.
How many of us have really gone to ask our youth, what are you passionate about?
We will be looking forward to most of the youth helping us so that the money goes into the pockets of the young people for purposes of their empowerment and not empowering a few merchants of Venice.
The Nation Leadership Forum focuses on finding possible solutions to the socio-economic issues experienced in the country.
We must plan together, reason together, and come up with solutions that will make us one proud, healthy nation.
Nation Leadership Forum, engaging society, impacting the nation.
Governments have not been known to be good in business. Actually, government has no business being in business.
The government wanted a clear way on how to share out public entities
to enhance their productivity and efficiency.
Several state corporations were privatized, and they range all the way from the hospitality industry, that's the hotel industry, sugar cane sector, that is the agricultural industry.
One of the biggest benefits is now a more efficient way of working, less bureaucratic.
And that could not have happened if it was not very well midwifed by the physician team in our country.
Vile walikufamia nyumbani, mama na mtoto wameenda.
Sharifa aliniletea ndoto mwenyewe.
Ambia baba, una habari? Sina habari. Vile unaona watu wamesimama kwa taraja hapo, ndugu yangu Yusuf Shundu ndio wameuliwa.
Sasa hiyo kisu nafikiria ilitoboa kichwa.
Wamepiga makizu wakirarua, wamemkata kwa kichwa.
Waliingia kunishika na kuanza kunichapa kofi 3 ile mzito sana, mpaka nikachanganyikiwa akili.
Sasa nilishindwa kujua ni wakina nani waliua Sharifu.
Watu wenye waliua mtoto wangu pia nataka wapate shida vile mtoto wangu alipata.
Where are we headed as a country?
Every time we make a step forward, we do 2 backwards.
Any fool with huge amounts of money can be president of this country. It is no longer about service.
Why can't we move these people out and find somebody who can make the right decision for the country?
You're the experts, you can tell me.
We have to change the way we arrive at our leaders. We have to.
Organized crime, terrorism, and corruption, they're really siblings.
We don't need 10 cases. We just need 2 cases done properly, and it will serve a lesson.
Justice can only be found if I prosecute what I have claimed, bring the evidence, and say this man is guilty.
AM Live, every weekday morning on NTV.
This is NTV.
Well, the cat is out of the bag, and for the first time in an explicit speech, the Deputy President made it clear he shall not be confined in an office floor. This, as President Kenyatta maintains, it's not time for campaign, but rather for service delivery. But who had the President speak? And this week, specifically this month, we began on a sad note with the death of Robert William Holdemore. My guests will have time to remember him in their own way. And last week, we ended on a bad note. Someone wants the Deputy President eliminated. But so many sentiments around these claims that we are unable to discern the truth from lies. That's why the outcome of this is with the DCI, and it will be very important to us. On Time Bar, we take you back to one of the greatest mergers in the recent history. But first, it's my take tonight. The sensational claims about a plot to assassinate Deputy President William Ruto dominated the political discourse in the past week, climaxing with the summoning of 3 cabinet secretaries to write statements at the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. Deputy President is the second in command after the President, and any threat to his life is extremely sensitive and requires utmost attention. But the claims have been interrogated within the context of prevailing sibling rivalry in the ruling Jubilee Party and in relation to President Kenyatta's succession in 2022. After the bonhomie within the Jubilee coalition, what follows the 2013 election win, things have taken a drastic turn after the 2017 polls, which was again won by the Jubilee side, which had transformed itself into a party. Now, 2 camps within the diametric opposed views have emerged in Jubilee. That's the Tanga team that coalesces around the Deputy President, and the Kieleweke team that has roots, or rather coalesced around President Kenyatta. Now, despite repeat denial about this division, there is no masking the camps within Jubilee, which is identifying by the day. Linked to this is ethnic and regional alignment. Specifically, claims that top government officials from Mount Kenya region have been meeting and plotting to eliminate the Deputy President, which is quite grave, which is why it must be thoroughly investigated. It risks fomenting ethnic hostilities at the cabinet level. It creates paralysis. It's incomprehensible how the DP will relate with the other CSs and principal secretaries accused of scheming against him. Now, cabinet operates on the principle of collective responsibility, and that presupposes unity of purpose in the cabinet, which is untenable in the current environment. Now, since we have seen the CSS throwing gabs and babs at the DP, and the situation may even get worse unless the matter is quickly resolved. Moreover, there is a serious split within the party and its parliamentary teams. Party members no longer pull in one direction. Accusations and counter-accusations are playing all over, and we see them every single day. What obtains is party indiscipline. Not that parties should not allow dissent. That is healthy for democracy within the parties. But what is happening, in our opinion, is unruliness. Without harmony in cabinet and the ruling party, the government is at serious risk of crumbling. It cannot deliver on its development programs. Worse, for our case, the country is grappling with corruption, and fighting it requires singular commitment from the government. Now, that government, which cannot succeed within a divided house and a divided cabinet. Now, Kenya has a long history of unresolved political assassinations. The claims are bad for the government and the country. It is incumbent upon President Kenyatta to tackle the discontentment within the cabinet and the party. He must bring to an end the endless bickering within the cabinet and the party. Reckless and baseless statements must stop. And tonight, we borrow the words of Will Rogers. He's a stage actor and a newspaper columnist. Everything is changing. People are taking their comedians seriously, and the politicians as a joke. My guest tonight, Edwin Sifuna. Gathoni wa Mushomba was supposed to be here. Bashi is not here, and Barack Muluka is here, and of course we have Mwambu Mabonga. My name is Ken Mijungu. Welcome to our program tonight. Join the conversation. The hashtag, as always, is Sidebar. At NTV Kenya, at Ken Mijungu, Sidebar is completing the puzzle tonight for you.
Mimi nashangaa, kwani kazi ya deputy president ni gani?
Hapana, aenda tu kanisa, umebeba pesa kwa gunia, ati unasaidia Mungu kwa kanisa. Nenda pale, sema ukweli, anza kwa kutubu dhambi zako.
Wale ambao wamezoea kugandamiza wa Kenya wanapinga michango kanisani na kwa wananchi wanyonge. Mimi nataka niwaeleze, they will not succeed.
Watu wa Embu wanasema Mheshimiwa Uhuru akitoka akimaliza yake 2022, Mheshimiwa Ruto aingie kwa play.
Sisi tunataka tu kura ifanyike kwa haki na usawa. Hatutaki endorsement.
A good place to begin our discussion tonight. Welcome, gentlemen. We were supposed to have a lady, but she's not here. I'll go straight to the SG for ODM, and congratulations on your election as at CMD. Straight after the Deputy President spoke, you answered him. Like always, you always answer when the Deputy President speaks. But this one is the first time that he was very explicit about his role and function, and he made it clear he will not be confined in the office. And you went straight to answer him on that.
First of all, I want to bring to your attention that the constitution of ODM places upon every member of a party a responsibility to combat negative propaganda that is detrimental to the interests of the party. The word used in our constitution under Article 5 is combat, not respond to, not deal with, combat. So we will deal with propaganda in the terms with which our constitution has expressed itself. And as a Secretary General of a party, I have the greatest responsibility to actually do that combating. So we have suffered as a party before because we did not combat propaganda that was directed our way, specifically from the character of William Ruto. You know that we suffered greatly in the elections in 2013 because of the propaganda around the Mao issue. And it is my stated mission that for as long as I'm the Secretary General of the party, I will undertake that duty without fear or favor, because that is what the members of the party expect from me. So we have to set the record straight every time that we encounter such propaganda. There are a lot of things that were in the Deputy President's statement, and you can see the bitterness that is coming out. Because for us, we are a bit surprised, Ken. We have heeded the call of our captain, Honorable Raila Odinga, to cease fire with Jubilee. It's not as if we do not have capacity to return the fire that is being directed at us. Just because we've put down our weapons doesn't mean we have forgotten how to use them. And even when the president was in Kisumu, James Orengo made the point that really for us, we are standing behind our leader. He has told us to cease fire. We cannot even, we cannot throw a stone back. We cannot even look at a stone because Raila will tell you to stand down. But at the same time, we are seeing salvos coming from the other side because somehow, because of the indiscipline on the other side, they have refused to heed the call of the president that really, at this particular point in time, we would like to bring the nation together. We calm down all the fiery rhetoric. You remember the president had even apologized for some of the language that was used during the campaigns. We accepted that apology. We also apologized for some of the things that we said. I personally apologize for my statements in the media during the campaigns and in public during the campaigns and on behalf of other young leaders who are hot bloods within the party. So we thought that we were starting on a new footing. And if you look at the conduct of the party so far, we have heeded the call. But we are surprised that there are elements within Jubilee who do not have respect enough for their captain and their leader, the party leader, to be able to respect his director.
But that's not upon you to judge, because you are engaged with ODM. Why would you think Jubilee are not respecting the
Ken, captain? If we agree in this studio that we are not going to throw the liquids in our cups at each other, then really I am in a position to judge when you are throwing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And identify it.
Because I'm the target of
why can't you limit it to what goes to ODM?
So this is what we are saying, because we know that the language and the rhetoric was directed at the party leader of ODM. He didn't have to mention him by name, but he described him. And we know his problem with the party leader is that he believes that the party leader owes him the presidency. And this coming hot on the heels of some of the things we've been discussing here, there is an attempt to run away from that sensational claim that somebody is after his life. And yet he has refused
I'm going to talk about that.
We have to put all these things in context, interrogate every single thing that he says. When he says, for instance, that we are prone to making allegations of corruption on everything. When we sounded the alarm on, for instance, the Eurobond, the Auditor General himself in his report said he was unable to trace a single project where this money was utilized. On NYS, I don't need to say anything. You know about the fake fertilizer. You know about the Northern Collector Tunnel and all the issues that were raised on that particular project. So it's not just about us raising these issues so that we stall projects. On the contrary, we would like to shine light on these contracts so that they are actually implemented and they don't end up like Kimware and Aror.
Okay. Mheshimiwa Mabonga, please find for me justification in what the Deputy President said on over the weekend. It was yesterday, not even over the weekend, regarding his role. He says he'll not remain in office and do his duty as expected in the office. He'll get out in the field and that is his hand. Find for me justification with that, because there is the notion that there's no politics that should be going on. But this is what happens, and I've seen in one of the political rallies.
Well, I don't know whether those ones are called political rallies, but every time I accompany the Deputy President, we are doing development. And in fact, he has been in my constituents more than once. And every time he comes, there is specific assignment that he's doing. The other day, we were doing fundraising for the women. He was there last time when we were doing fundraising for the youth. So, and the other time he came when he was actually handing over the school bus to one of the schools that he had promised. So at times when he comes, he's specifically on the national duty as the Deputy President, not necessarily a political rally. I've never organized a political rally for him. And secondly, I've just listened to some of the sentiments he made yesterday. I wanted to know specifically what is this propaganda that my colleague here is alleging to, because the deputy was talking of the fundraising, people want to stop fundraising, and actually was responding to some sentiments that were made against him, that carrying money in the bags and all that, such like things. What I want to say, Ken, here is that, you know, we can't run away that there is corruption in this country. And secondly, we cannot deny the fact that there are at least some achievement from the side of the government. But what we need to do, people can abuse anything in this country if you don't know. Let me ask a question to my panelists here. Let's assume today that malaria and malaria drugs, of course, we take them to treat malaria. And then we say there are people abusing malaria drugs. So the best way to do it is to stop people from taking malaria drugs, or there are other remedies that we need to deal with. We are not denying that fact. He was responding specifically to an issue that had been raised by a certain leader.
All right, he was responding to the issues, and Sifuna responded obviously after that. But let me speak to Barack. Barack, listening to the ceasefire call, you know, does it mean they have abdicated their role and now the family behind Jubilee?
I do not want to look at it within that prism. I want to look at it from the context that there was a handshake. And to try to deconstruct the handshake, particularly see it in the context of what President Uhuru Kenyatta said during the National Prayer Day, that I could give you a few more. You remember the preacher said that he wondered whether Kenya could lend the United Kingdom a prime minister. And Deputy President William Ruto said, yes, we have a retired one here whom we could give you. And President Uhuru Kenyatta said that I could give you a few more other people so that I could have peace for the next 3 years. And when we talk about the handshake, I think that is the context within which we should try to deconstruct and understand it. That we have tended to understand the handshake as meaning that there was now going to be a ceasefire in the streets, in the estates, and in the villages where Kenyans had been engaging each other, and which is true that that was happening. But I think that President Kenyatta, in a sense, saw what was coming, and he thought that he needed to be able to carry on peacefully. And peacefully in the sense that the handshake has helped him to combat the domestic tsunami. Because what we are seeing today, and which is being externalized, is a Jubilee domestic affair which they have failed to manage. And having failed to manage that domestic affair, they are externalizing it. At least a part of Jubilee is externalizing it and looking for scapegoats outside. These blows which Deputy President William Ruto is throwing around rather liberally at the ODM leader are actually proxy blows. They are blows that are intended for President Uhuru Kenyatta. And because he cannot pluck enough courage to throw them at him squarely, he throws them at the easiest punching bag in the way, and that easiest punching bag is the ODM leader. But basically, if you listen to him, if you deconstruct these things, William Ruto is talking to Uhuru Kenyatta, and he's talking like someone who is in panic because he has an excessive appetite for political power, to the extent that he does not even seem to recognize that even today, as he sits, he wields some political power which he could exercise in a decent and acceptable manner. And so, like Ahab, the whaler in Herman Melville's book, Moby Dick, he cannot recognize any other whale in the waters. There's a specific white whale that he must catch. And so he forgets about that and he must trouble the waters. Okay. So this is a domestic thing which is being externalized, which is being made a national thing that it is not.
But Sifuna just mentioned specifically that the jobs are meant for the ODM leader. I don't know how you relate it and deconstruct it. Now you think it's meant to President Uhuru Kenyatta?
In the sense that he's the easy punching bag. You know, when you cannot hit at the target, when you are afraid, then you hit at the next fellow. So as he hits him, in terms of that he wants to provoke somebody, he hits at the ODM leader. Okay. But the person that he has in mind is his party leader, whom only a few days ago he told to call for a Jubilee party meeting to discuss corruption, to discuss the 2022, to discuss Jubilee internal wrangling, and to discuss the handshake.
Okay, but how do they discuss internal wrangling? They've never admitted to the existence of internal wrangling. But having accompanied the Deputy President, and I know you had questions for Honorable Sifuna, especially on propaganda that he said, right? Listening to him, you work with the Deputy President and you share in the ideology. Are they meant for the ODM leader, or he's just shadowboxing, he's looking for reasons?
Ken, I don't want us to get to a position of just scratching the surface. I was very attentive when I listened to the Deputy President. And Deputy President was very clear. He was actually responding to the allegations that had been made concerning the fundraising. These internal issues of Jubilee does not concern ODM. It doesn't concern my friend Barack Muruka here. Those are internal, and I've said it's internal. Neither me, because I'm not a Jubilee member. I've only association with the Deputy President, whom I believe in his ideology. But one thing I want to let you understand, you know, from what he has said, he has quoted something, and I wish just to remind him of a similar, a very innocent question was actually posed to Jesus Christ during his time. There are people in the society who believe that an enemy to your enemy is definitely your friend. And at one time, the Herodians and the Pharisees approached Jesus. If you ever read the Bible, it must be in Matthew 22. And then they asked Jesus, what can we do? Should we continue to pay taxes to Caesar? And then Jesus responded, because they were expecting him to say either yes or no. But this is what Jesus said. He said, give Caesar what belongs to Caesar and give God what belongs to God. Basically, what Jesus was implying, because the coin of Caesar had the image of Caesar. So when we go to church with the deputy president, we are not going because of money. First, we are going to worship as believers. That is the essence. But again, it does not restrict you to give what you have. At all, at all. It doesn't at all. It doesn't restrict you at all. And it's not the duty of the churchmen to investigate. We have the agencies of corruption here to do that kind of job.
Are you trying to say they should not be raising issues of corruption?
No, I'm not saying they should not be raising.
Okay.
But you should not say, now we should bar people not to give offerings, not to do fundraising. Fundraising is an African social spirit of assisting the least fortunate, at least to succeed.
Is that the message really you're sending out there?
Actually, that is the message. That is why we do that.
Yeah. Let me answer the question he asked on what the propaganda is. The propaganda, the heaviest propaganda in the deputy president's speech was on the causes of poverty in this country. People are impoverished by government policy. People are impoverished by bad manners of people stealing money that is meant for development to empower our people. If we dealt with corruption, for instance, and the bad policies that we have seen in previous governments, including this government for which he is a member, then probably our people would not be in the position that we are.
Okay.
We are making the point that you cannot make Harambes the basis of development in this country. It actually pains me when I hear a member of parliament saying, I was accompanying him to do development. That means you don't know why you were elected to parliament. You don't know the role of a member of parliament. You are ashamed to your people. You should go back to them for them to tell you what they send you to do in parliament. If indeed your job as a member of parliament is budget making, you allocate money for projects, and once the monies are budgeted for, you can go back to the people of Bumula and tell them, in this particular financial year, we were only allocated money for this road. For this other road, we will have to wait until the finances of the country get better. William Ruto is not the custodian of development in this country. So for you to lie to us, and one of the most interesting things is this thing called launching projects. I personally have a very serious gripe against it, because when we pay our taxes, we do it without hula baloo. Yeah, the day before was the final day for filing taxes. You didn't see Barack Muluka calling the media to cut tapes and to launch his taxes when he was paying. And development follows taxes. So once we have paid the taxes, we expect that the taxes will be used for development. Those Harambes are not developments. Essentially, by the way, Ken, those churches are supposed to be built by the fellowship itself, by the membership of those churches. But we have made sure that if we require 10 million to build a church in Manyulia, for instance, the people there are so poor that they can only raise 1,000 shillings. The whole congregation, when they go to give Sadaka, everybody is giving 10 shillings. But there is this guy who is so successful. If you need 10 million, you only call him. And he comes with 11 million na ya kutoa.
Okay.
And then because my brother Mwambu has gone into scripture, it is good that he knows scripture. Scripture is also clear on two things. Number one, which kind of offerings can be accepted by God. And God also looks at the conduct of a person giving the offering. That is why Cain's offerings were rejected. And number two, which hands can build a temple. It is there in black and white in the Bible, which is why David, for all his friendship with God, was never allowed to build the temple in Jerusalem. But his son Solomon was allowed to build the temple.
Okay.
So it's not just anyone who can come and say...
I'd like to take you a little back, because your own party leader was sitting in Kisumu with President Uhuru Kenyatta launching a project.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Yes. This is my personal view. I am saying that this issue of launching projects is unnecessary. And it has been abused in our political processes, because they create the impression that unless you come with Sifuna, there's not going to be any development. Okay. Unless Mijungu is present to cut the tape, it's not going to be development. And yet you have already paid taxes. Okay. If you are creating this environment where people are dependent on Harambes, we pay taxes, you steal all of it, and then you come and give us money to build a church. It doesn't make any sense.
I have something to say.
Okay, let me listen to Barack. Then I come to you before we take a break. Yes.
Thank you. I think we need to contextualize this thing and perhaps allow me to take you where I think I ought perhaps to even have started. Because when we talk about propaganda here, we have heard the expression, the Lord of poverty.
Yeah.
And I think it is important that we trace this expression to its roots in recent times. Because in 1989, we remember the American journalist and researcher Graham Hancock wrote a book titled Lords of Poverty. And what was Graham Hancock talking about? He was talking about aid. He was talking about a certain class of people who call themselves the aristocracy of mercy, a benevolent aristocracy. People who are giving out handouts, charity in Africa, to Asia, to Latin America. They are working with impoverished communities. And they do so through donations, through Harambes. And he said that at that time, or rather observed at that time, close to 60 billion US dollars were going to that kind of charity. And yet they were not eradicating poverty anywhere. The people continue to be poor. The lords of poverty, as understood by Graham Hancock, are people who are happy that you remain poor, that society remains essentially poor, and that the poor people feel happy when this angel of benevolence comes from outside to give them droplets of charity, because he has a lot more which he cannot account for, whose source nobody knows of, and whose source he does not wish to be interrogated, but he will arrive from time to time with bundles of charity. And this person is the person that Graham Hancock has referred to as the Lord of Poverty. And we may want to flip that over and remind ourselves of another Lord who has been talked about by William Golding, a novelist, Nobel Prize winner, 1954, the famous novel Lord of the Flies. And the Lord of the Flies is actually the author and the father of all that is wicked and all that reeks. But there are flies that follow him wherever he goes because they benefit from that reek.
Okay.
And so he is the Lord of the Flies.
Okay.
So if you look in the mirror carefully, you might find a convergence between the Lord of the Flies and the Lord of Poverty. And I think before we begin touting around some of these expressions, we should investigate them, and we should perhaps also look in the mirror.
A good place to take a break. A good place to take a break. let me absorb all that. When we come back,
school fees
for educating us, we're going to come back and talk about that a little more and deconstructing that term, Lord of Poverty. But even as we leave, let's listen to what some of the leaders had to say about what we're discussing.
Ni porojo kubwa sana kwa sababu I think this is a script, a scheme, and a plan, and a decoy to divert attention of Kenyans from the war on corruption.
Sasa hana mali pa kwenda, yeye alisema DCI hafai, DPP hafai, CSC hafai, Matiang'i hafai. Sasa ataenda wapi sasa?
When the spirit of Kenya got going that magical day, it never looked back. And now, the same spirit is ready to take Kenya to the next level. Led proudly by a new generation. Kenya King, Shangilia, Hustle ya Kenya.
Please welcome the Molfix Band. Molfix, with its double absorbent system, absorbs the liquid immediately and traps the liquid in. Also, with its elastic side bands, Molfix offers freedom of movement. You should also try Molfix.
If by any chance you find out that you have TB, you'll get the treatment for free from any hospital. All the tests are free. All the medications are free.
Don't wait till it's too late. TB is preventable, treatable, and curable.
Renting a traditional office often requires a long-term lease and high rent. We are in Senegal to find out why so many entrepreneurs are increasingly turning to co-working spaces.
Are you planning to take a loan, or are you servicing one already? The problem is many citizens are becoming prisoners of this system.
And do you have any regrets? Like, would you change anything?
That's how we wanted our ideal magical wedding to look like.
Taste imeweza na bei imeweza. Streetwise 2 is now at 350 shillings.
Wow.
2 pieces of original recipe or hot and crispy chicken and regular chips. It's finger licking good.
Imagine kuna Everton wakicheza ball Kenya na 102. Regular tickets will be available from the 1st of July. Tukutane Kasarani. SportPesa, make it count.
Right, welcome back to Sidebar. With me sitting here on Sidebar this evening is Edwin Sifuna, Secretary General for ODM Party. Gathoni wa Mushomba was supposed to be here. Her seat was somewhere here, but she's not here, and she really apologized quite late. And all right, Barak Muluka, who's the Secretary General for ANC, is also here, and Bumula, Member of Parliament, Mwambu Mabonga, is also here to talk about these issues. We left at the ODM leaders talking about diversionary tactics now employed by the Deputy President. And before then, I want to ask you, because it looks as though the Deputy President essentially is not working with the people he's supposed to be working with. I mean, we have seen the sentiments around the Deputy President. Everyone agrees that he is targeting the President indirectly through Raila Odinga.
Well, you know, I don't want to work with speculations, but first of all, I want to take you back a bit on something that was raised on fundraising, and my friend Barak has raised about the duo lots of flies, yes, and lots of poverty. Yes. And there was another sentiment about the high priest of corruption.
There's even the load of propaganda.
A load of propaganda. So he's a good linguistic. He will take us through maybe those words later. He's a linguist. So he will take us through maybe, as my brother Sifuna has just said, that we will need some tuition so that he takes us through. But what I want to say is this. You know, what you need to know, that the government doesn't have provision for church development. That much you need to know, Sifuna.
I'm aware.
If you're aware of that, and I, Mabonga, or even the Deputy President, does not work in any church without invitation. And this notion of saying that if I do not agree with your association, then I'm wrong, that's a very wrong notion. There is power of association. I have seen you, my friend Sifuna, accompanying Raila Odinga, the former Prime Minister, with even the President, launching projects.
Me?
Yes, I have seen you. Everywhere Raila has been, you have always been there. Whether he's doing projects, whether he's doing politics, you are always there. Of course, maybe as the Secretary General of the party. But again, if my association with the Deputy President, and then you want to demonize that, and that I don't think that is right, because you have also to have room for others' views, so that we work together.
Did
and
he
we
do
see
that?
Where the country
Did
is
he
going.
talk about your association
Yes.
with the Deputy President?
Of course, he said that I seem not to know what I'm doing. I was surprised.
As a member of Parliament.
The church doesn't have provision for development, and that is why whenever we are invited, we step in to assist.
But do you agree that if we empowered the community in a manner that they are able to contribute to building the churches?
Absolutely.
Without
there is
the need
no
from
doubt
outside?
about that.
So then why don't we go and do this from the ground? Why do we have to call? Yes.
But if It's not yet there yet. The government in place, as much as they are trying, yes, you walk around this country, you will see some development, especially in infrastructure. You will see some development. And we are not denying that there is corruption. But what we are saying is this. There is government agencies where actually people believe, even ODM as a party, I've seen them, they believe in the new DCI, they believe in the new anti-corruption body. They're doing their work. If there is anything that the deputy president has done, let it be tackled before the DCI. Let it be tackled before the anti-corruption. They will take it up. That is all that we need. But you wake up today and you demonize everything that somebody is doing. It's not right. Okay. Now, when you ask me whether the deputy president is working with the people he's supposed to work with, I sit with the deputy president, my friend Ken. I talk to the deputy president. He has never complained to me. And even in public, you've listened to him. He has never complained that he has issues with the president. So if somebody with a sound mind, he has not complained, why should I come here on this?
Does it need to complain if the president says no politicking, and we see the deputy president in political rallies, whichever you want to call them? Is that not complaining about his boss or protesting about what the boss says?
Do you think President Uhuru is unable to address his deputy? Do you think so? Is that what you are alleging?
But he has done it several times.
No.
He's done it several times.
Do you think so?
No,
because
he has
if
done it several
there is any
times.
issue between them, definitely he will address it. I know President Uhuru, he will take it. He will take it on.
So you don't think there's a problem? You don't think there's a problem?
He is the same president who said William Ruto atapita humu akitangatanga akiangalia yale hatuchafanya.
Okay.
That statement was from the president.
So you don't think he has a problem with what the deputy president is doing?
As far as I'm concerned,
yes,
I have not seen it yet.
Okay.
Sifuna, you know, me and Mwambu come from Bungoma. He knows the problems our people are in. He knows the impact of just one person in one family going to school and getting employed as a teacher. He knows the impact of just having one teacher in one village. He knows the way that that person, having gotten employment, raises that entire village up. What Mwambu should be telling the deputy president when they meet is to ask them, these 1 million jobs that you promised to create for the young people when you are re-elected, where are these jobs? Because if we get 1 million people employed, young people, and we only get 50 in Bumula constituency, he himself will see the burden, because even the calls that he receives for fundraisers, for funerals, for school fees, they will change, they will go down. Okay. So we want to have an honest discussion about whether really we are empowering our people to be able to do what is required to be done in their communities.
Okay.
Now, number two.
Let me fix your mic.
Yes.
Let me fix your mic. But let me speak to Barack. The same thing. Do you think he says that the deputy president is not undermining his boss by going against explicit expressions from the president? Do you agree?
You see, the president says, let us stop these campaigns. Let us focus on development. And the next morning, the deputy president is leading an entourage across the country. He's gallivanting from one corner of the country to the other with his troops in tow. And there's nothing that we are really seeing of all this apart from the vitriol that goes with it, apart from the tantrums such as we have had yesterday. We have seen certain projects being launched and relaunched and relaunched. Certain roads in Western Kenya, for example, have been relaunched about 5, 6, 7, 8 times. And you start wondering what is so important about this road that it must be launched 10 times by the same person. And the only memorable thing that lingers after that event is the sheer vitriol that went with it. To the extent that the president goes back to his backyard and he's constrained to tell the people there that I'm now getting fed up with these people whom I've been telling to stop these things, and I want to tell them that I'm not their little boy, I'm going to sort them out. So there is a clear rebellion, there's clear recalcitrance, that we have got people who refuse to admit that there's a challenge here. You see, when URP and TNA got into this compact, they were kind of like people who got inside a room or a house, and they instructed the Masons to block all entries, all openings into and out of that thing. And so they are enclosed in this thing in which they are suffocating, in which they are sweating.
But they can't find a way out of it.
Which does not even have washrooms, in which they are doing everything that needs to be done, and they cannot get out of it. Okay. So they have gotten to a point where they are now fighting with the walls, and through certain pinholes in those walls, they are now seeing other people outside, and they are saying that you are the ones who are responsible. And I think that if they are not careful, by the time they are done with this room, with this building in which they are, it will come down.
Crumbling. And the obvious question then is Jubilee split?
There is Jubilee, let's borrow from South Sudan. You know, South Sudan has got SPLM-IG and SPLM-IO. SPLM-IG is SPLM in government, and SPLM-IO is SPLM in opposition.
Okay.
And so there is Jubilee-IG around President Kenyatta, and there's Jubilee-IO around Deputy President William
Ruto. So Sifuna, ODM has been accused for splitting Jubilee, and this is not my sentiments. It's been expressed several times by leaders inside Jubilee. Mwingine alikuja hapa, you know, all that has been said.
It's a bit crazy, and we don't want to respond to the musings of crazy people because it has no.
But it's your work to respond to everything.
This is what I'm saying. Yes. I am saying that as a policy, ODM does not interfere with the internal workings of other political parties.
Okay.
And especially now that I am a vice chair of an inter-party dialogue group, really, I don't want to say...
And I voted for him.
And he voted for me, for which I'm eternally grateful. What I want to say is this, the problems are internal, and they should look at them. The foundations of Jubilee, what was it built on? You see, if you have no strong ideological foundations on which you build a party, then once those fissures begin, it will be very difficult to stick together. I want to say just one final thing on Harambes. You see, the reason why we raise all this furor, Ken, is very simple. Most of these people are public officers. We know how much they make. We know how much they receive every month. So it raises questions when we see them donating 10 times what they receive.
But then they say they don't do business.
Yes, I know. I'm coming to that point because I've heard it before.
Okay.
They say they're doing business, which is fine. The question we ask ourselves is, as Kenyans, is you have been put in charge of two enterprises. One a public enterprise, the other one a private enterprise. The public enterprise is doing so badly, we are retrenching people, we are unable to pay salaries, we are unable to pay suppliers. But this other enterprise, the private one, which you are in charge of, is somehow doing so well. And the only nexus is that your private enterprise started doing very well. Immediately you encountered public resources. We have to raise questions.
That's an assumption.
Number two, I want to go back to the Constitution on the duties of a deputy president. It says only two things. You are a principal assistant to the president, and number two, you undertake duties assigned to you by the president. Assigned to you by the president. Now, it will be very difficult for the deputy president to argue that the things he's doing, he's either assisting the president or has been sent by the president to do. Which is why sometimes you see he gets very uncomfortable. He sneaks in donations and claims that those donations are from the president. Yet we know very well that the president's stated position is that we are not going to go around the country now drumming support for people for 2022.
But the president has neither come out to deny the money is not...
But let me tell you, you know, one of the things I've discovered in these public spaces and positions, people are very limited in the latitude with which they can go to say certain things in public.
Okay.
But for me, who is here and who knows certain things, I can say these things.
Mheshimiwa Babo, you mentioned earlier that if there is a case against the deputy president, even if it's corruption, he should, we should, or whoever has the case, should present this to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. We know there's a claim that CSs or some leaders from Central Kenya are plotting against the deputy president, and we haven't seen statements written on this.
Just before I respond to that, Ken, I don't want to leave some issues that have been raised hanging.
Okay.
Number one, because I will take a minute maybe just before I get to that. Number one, my friend just talked of young people in the village where I've been. I have had such a kind of life, my friend, and you know that. I know your background and you know mine very well. I have a scenario whereby when actually the leader of ODM declared some resistance to some product, there are people who lost jobs up to now. nobody has even bothered to find out what exactly happened. Those are some of the things that we are talking about. There is a handshake that came in. But what I'm seeing here from my colleague here is trying to divide the presidents. That now the promises that were made with the Jubilee government is squarely upon the deputy president. When you're talking of the presidents, actually, you talk of the whole of it, the president himself included. When ODM are actually castigating the deputy president having not fulfilled this, I expect them to channel such a questions to president himself. He has just also again raised the issue of fundraising, the deputy president giving money on behalf of his boss. Actually, if the deputy president has given money, not in secret, in public, where everybody is watching in the national media, and your boss has not denied, what that does what affect you, my brother Sifuna? It doesn't affect you in any way, because the boss has not denied. Who knows, maybe he sent him. Or you want, when the president is delegating duties to deputy president, to inform Sifuna, the Secretary General of ODM, that today I'm sending William somewhere, that you need to be aware of this. That is not, that should not be actually the basis of argument.
Okay.
And then secondly,
but it happened once when
it has happened. Exactly. When he went to the Hague, he told us now he has left the country.
Yes. Yeah. That is something different, my friend. It's not a harambe that you come to the public. Secondly, you've talked of assassination allegations.
Yes.
And I remember in the opening remarks, Barack Muruka mentioned of, we have actually a history of people being assassinated in this country. We can mention them, from JM up to maybe the other just recently, even Mbai was just murdered the other day. So they are there. And you remember on a national media, somebody talked of the deputy president will not be there in 2022. And actually he said it, not once. And people have been saying it. So when
in terms of being in the ballot or in terms of being eliminated?
That one now I don't know. But the issue here is when an allocation has been met, you see, it's the responsibility of the investigative agents to ensure that they inform Kenyans what is it all about. What I want to tell you is this. One, I have not had the deputy president complaining openly. So, honestly, I have not seen. And secondly, there is a fact that the cabinet secretaries were in DCI recording the statement. But one thing, the other day I just read on the newspaper that now it has been narrowed down to the communication officers of the deputy president. It's actually the DCI or the anti-corruption, those fellows who are investigating the case, to come and tell Kenyans that we summoned the head of communication, be it the secretary of the director of communication, in the office of the deputy president, and he has refused to come up. Ken, we are making allegations here as if some people stay in heaven or on the moon. What is wrong with you just establishing the facts about it and bring it on the table? But an allegation of assassination on somebody's life should be taken serious.
Especially a person of the deputy
president. A person of a deputy, even just not a person of the deputy president, anybody in this country, life is so precious. And if there was somebody who wanted just to get a political mileage out of it, still the investigation has to be done and somebody must be held accountable for that.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'd like you gentlemen to weigh in on this, but even let's listen to this, then you come back with your responses.
Ile mambo deputy president ya maneno ya assassination hiyo inakorogwa namna hii. Sisi tumesema ya kwamba every person who has been mentioned on this issue must step aside or be suspended to give us an opportunity to do thorough investigation.
Tumesema wachunguze kabisa, na kama kuna ukweli wale wanahusika waadhibiwe, lakini pia wakigundua kwamba si ukweli, basi wale ambao wametoa haya matamshi pia waadhibiwe.
Barack, you understand the language of your party leader. Please interpret that for us.
Yes, in fact, it doesn't need interpretation. It's very straightforward. We have had assassinations in this country since 1965, when Pio Gama Pinto was assassinated. This Friday, the 5th of July, it's going to be 50 years since Tom Mboya unfortunately stopped 3 bullets across the road here. We know about JM Kariuki, we know about Uko, we know about Dr. Muthiora, we know about many other people who have been assassinated. And some of these assassinations have been attended to by some of the most terrible civil unrest that this country has witnessed. And when you listen to Governor Sang there, you can see that here is an individual who is already starting to get charged. And I think that there's a sense in which Governor Sang there is almost a metaphor of feelings and emotions elsewhere within those environs. So this is not something to be taken lightly, especially when it comes from the very apogee of leadership in this country.
Okay.
And my party leader is saying this matter must be investigated.
But you also get the feeling that your party leader is saying that there might not be some truth about this.
Yes, and he's saying that if there's no truth in this, then the people who have originated what then essentially must be reduced to a lie must also face the music, because you do not go around crying wolf, wolf, while you have cause to know or to believe that you shouldn't be doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to agree with the sentiments of my two colleagues. First of all, as a politician, it would be foolhardy for me to support elimination of politicians by such means, because I would probably be next. We have had a bad history in this country, and we have said that really, we believe that there is no candidate in this country who cannot be beat at the ballot. I think there's also people trying to create an air of invincibility by saying that the only way we will stop Barack from becoming president
physical
is by
elimination.
physical elimination. Yet we have faith in Kenyans to actually judge the character of all the people who will be presented who will present themselves at the ballot and say we want so and so and we don't want so and so. And for me, I'm not going to beat around the bush like you know, these gentlemen are a bit more you know, I don't know, they have certain inhibitions that that I do not have. The DCI, the FBI have already handed in their preliminary report. It has already been concluded by the police themselves, not the newspapers, the police themselves, that this was a hoax. That the letter, the basis of which these investigations were launched, was actually generated from the office of the Deputy President, and they are looking for the authors. So it is not premature to conclude that this was a political gimmick to seek publicity from the office of a Deputy President. And we are saying really it is an act of desperation. For us as ODM, we believe that politics a very dangerous act of you know, deception. But for us, we have to put it in context. There are people who are used to such types of politics, blackmail, sending subtle threats to certain people living in certain areas that things will happen if you don't do such things. For us, we still believe that politics is persuasion. I still have to talk to you and tell you why you will not need harambes from politicians in 2022, because I will have employed all your kids. We will have an economy that is creating jobs and so on and so forth. That we will not depend on Sifuna launching a road for it to be built. The road, and my brother knows, there's a famous road in Bungoma which has been launched end to end. Twice this side, and 2 times over. Brigadier Misihu. Every time I see him there, he's going to launch the road to Brigadier Misihu. And yet, Thika Road, for those of us who are here in Nairobi, I don't remember how many times Kibaki launched Thika Road. I think he only came during the groundbreaking and maybe during... That was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, really, in this particular respect, Ken, it is a very dangerous game to play with national security.
Okay.
Because the import of an assassination or even an attempt or even a thought of assassination of a deputy president is something that has national security consequences.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now the question that lingers is, how do you then work with these cabinet secretaries? How do you work with them after this?
Incidentally, it is not the first time that the DP has wanted cabinet secretaries out. And it's not just, this is not the first time we have had.
That's the translation that you're having.
No. Yes. I'm telling you, there are things that I can say that other people refuse to say or they are afraid to say. We are aware that the pressure has been brought to bear on certain cabinet secretaries simply because their ambitions probably clash with that of the deputy president, or that they are not willing to support his ambitions. These cabinet secretaries are also our friends and we talk to them. Yeah, they have told us in no uncertain terms that they have had to seek protection from the deputy president. You have seen reports in the media of people in public service having to seek protection from the harassment by the deputy president. So it's not the first time.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does the deputy president go back and work with these CSs in the cabinet?
Every time you raise some sentiments, I get a feeling the allegations coming up as if this government do not have the honor. or somebody is not in charge of it.
The public
Because you see,
it's our government.
It's our
We are the
government.
owners.
All of us, that's what I was coming to. All of us, we have a civic duty to protect the constitution. And if the government is not working, it's not a responsibility of one person. What I'm actually disagreeing with you guys is actually now carrying all the blame to one person, as if the government is one person. How the deputy is going to discharge duties with his cabinet and the president, that one lies with the leadership of the government. And actually that is the president himself. He knows each one of them has a duty. And at the end of the day, these things actually surround the president himself. Okay. If there is a problem in the executive, actually the president himself must fix that problem. It's none of us. We raise issues the way you are raising now. I'm sure he's listening, or his people are listening, and they will tell him. So, but the issue of just saying now this problem is because of so and so, and is not coming out clearly from the boss. You see, Kibaki, just let me just finish something.
Okay.
Kibaki, when he had the same problem with the government, actually when there were divisions in the government, and he had just lost the referendum, you remember? Kibaki was bold enough. He came to the media and dissolved the whole cabinet. If that is the way to go, so be it. That's what we are saying.
Okay. Barak, break down this for me. Picture Deputy President who is supposed to be leading the cabinet right there sitting, and we have all these three CSs sitting in the cabinet. How does it work with them? How do you relate with them?
After what has just happened, it's going to be very difficult after these allegations, whether they are true or false. My brother Edwin says that they have already established that they are false. I'd like to give them a bit of benefit of doubt until such a time as someone comes out and categorically states that they are false. Although I'm of the persuasion that they are false, I cannot conceivably, intelligently conceive a situation where 50 people are meeting somewhere to conspire how to kill
a deputy president.
Anyone, how to kill anyone, even how to kill a chicken. You cannot have 50 people sitting together to engage in that kind of discussion. But on the question of then how government is managed, and where I want to agree with my brother Mwambu Mabonga, the responsibility of constituting government reposes with the president. Nowhere in that document which is on this table here, the Constitution, does it say that the deputy president will also contribute a certain portion of people to the government. And we started from a very grotesque perspective, where we have seen that sometimes even the naming of the cabinet seems to take inordinately forever, because the deputy president does not agree with the president. It should never be like that. It's a very bad and dangerous precedent that we seem to have established in this country. We are not the first or the only country where when we go to elections, we have a presidential candidate and we have a running mate. The running mate comes on that ticket, obviously, because he or she brings some value that the presidential candidate on his or her own may not deliver. There are certain demographics that you are going to bring onto that ticket into the presidential election effort. And after you are done, whether your name is Pence, or it's Biden, or it is George Bush Sr., you allow the person who has been elected as president the space to be president. You don't go around making life difficult for him. You don't go around beginning to campaign on day one, and even when he tells you, look, my brother, you are my principal assistant, come help me, let's do these things. When the time comes, we'll come out. So this is where the challenge, therefore, about how this cabinet will go forward rests. And I think I want to agree with Mwambu Mabonga. Let the president do the needful. Okay. If there are some people who have been placed there because they belong to someone and they're the ones in that cabinet who seem to be faithful to a certain strand, let him get rid of them. He begins by getting rid of those ones. He brings in new people. And if there are people who work with him and for him and who have worked well and who have been falsely accused, he puts his foot down.
Okay. I'd like to talk more about that, Sifuna. I know you want to weigh in. I'd like to take a break, but that's the last break we're taking because I want to talk about two things. The possibility that the president can contemplate dissolving his cabinet at this time. And obviously, we have to look at what's happening in the Jubilee government in terms of who owes who what. In terms of if the president owes the deputy president votes or his people in 2022. But the deputy president, remember, has said that no one or no community owes me anything. So I'd like to talk about that briefly. But first, let's take a break. And even as we take a break, I'd like us to listen to this.
Here we are seeing a situation where the cabinet may not even be able to make a decision. It may not even be able to sit because of the high level of suspicion and mistrust and animosity.
Reshuffled cabinet. Kwa ajili hii cabinet haitakuwa pamoja tena. Wakati deputy president anasema wengine kwa cabinet wanataka kuua yeye.
Hawa mawaziri kama wanaingilia siasa, futa wote waende nyumbani.
Buy a plot at 270,000 and save 70,000. Book a plot with 50,000. Balance in 2 months. All cash buyers will get another plot absolutely free. AMG Realtors. Integrity.
Hiyo ni private property. Awiti hiyo nakaa salon.
Kuja hapa, hakuna kitu nanunua hapa. Kuja.
Awiti my girl. Uko tu na spirit ya kupiga studio. Unaona hiyo spirit? Beba unyo uende uoshe hiyo choo ing'are.
Take it. Relax.
I know I look amazing. It is my new hairdresser.
Okash is the quickest and easiest way to request short-term loans from your mobile phone whenever you need them. You can borrow up to 50,000 Kenya shillings in 1 day and choose between a 14 or 28-day term to repay it. Download Okash today from Google Play Store, enjoying the Okash experience.
Since 1985, Nation Classic Golf Series has become the most sought-after golf series in the East African region. This year, we tee off on the well-manicured courses of Mombasa, Eldoret and Nairobi, surpassing any other golf tournament experience in history. Join us and be part of the rich heritage of a well-structured golf series, tailored to make a positive impact as we build strong and productive partnerships. Call us now on 0719 038 251 and book your spot. Nation Classic Golf Series, the premier network in business sport.
Vile walikufamia nyumbani, mama na mtoto wameenda.
Sharifa aliniletea ndoto mwenyewe.
Ambia baba, una habari? Sina habari. Vile unaona watu wamesimama kwa taraja hapo. Ndugu yangu Yusuf Shundu ndio wameuliwa.
Sasa hiyo kisu nafikiria ilitoboa kichwa.
Wamepiga makizu wakirarua, wamemkata kwa kichwa.
Waliingia kunishika na kuanza kunichapa kofi 3 ile mzito sana. Mpaka nikachanganyikiwa akili.
Sasa nilishindwa kujua ni wakina nani waliua Sharifu.
Watu wenye waliua mtoto wangu pia nataka wapate shida vile mtoto wangu alipata.
Imagine kuona Everton wakicheza ball Kenya na 102. Regular tickets will be available from 1st of July. Tukutane Kasarani. SportPesa, make it count.
the center of focus.
And we are back, the gentleman here, very heated discussion, but let's bring it back to the studio for you now. And Sifuna, you wanted to comment, and even as you comment about this, just at the back of your mind, I want you also to bring in the aspect of the reason why perhaps the Deputy President is doing this is because he's sure at the back of his mind, going with the trend and what he says, there's no way he's going to get the support of his boss.
Now, I don't want to go into that because I was not privy to the arrangements that they entered into, but politics of betrayal is something that we are used to in this country. We have seen it before. As ODM, we have suffered betrayal, and we have also been accused of betrayal from time to time. We want to focus our attention on what is important. And I think the question that my brother Mwambu has asked me, why there seems to be focus on one individual when these promises were being made. I want to be very clear that when it comes to the promises that were made by Jubilee, we actually demand for those promises from Jubilee as a party in power. So for instance, we still want them to tell us where the 6 stadiums were. I think where the focus shifts to the Deputy President is also his attitude and his role. For instance, on the issue of stadiums, everybody knows he's the one who stood at Kasarani to give us timelines. On the stadium, he was giving 6 weeks, 3 weeks, and we have to ask him what happened to all these things. The president, when he's saying, let us focus on uniting the country, let's drop down the vitriol, let us focus on the big four, the deputy president is speaking a totally different language. So we raise these issues not because we have anything against him, but we would like there to be some level of commitment to the things that the party leader of Jubilee has identified as important. On the question of the cabinet, it really is a prerogative of the president who he wants to have in cabinet. Of course, the expectation of the ordinary Kenyan is that you have a functional cabinet that delivers the expectations. For us as ODM, anytime we comment on whether the cabinet is dysfunctional, I can't even say whether it should be dissolved or not, because our brothers will start saying, yes, you want to go into government. You remember when the handshake happened, we were shouting ourselves hoarse that we have no intention of going into government. A year and a half down the line, we are not in government. No one is in government, but nobody remembers. But there are several appointments.
Just as nobody remembers. Musyoka, who was your deputy party leader, was appointed.
Unfortunately, I can only speak for ODM.
Yes.
Yeah. But unfortunately for you.
But
what I'm saying is, we told people that this is not what the handshake was about, but we don't get any credit. So even now, we are saying it is a prerogative of a president to decide who he wants in his cabinet, who he doesn't want. For us as a party, we are focused on forming our own government when the right time comes.
Okay.
Yeah. However, when the government is dysfunctional, it is our duty, our responsibility, whoever we may be, wherever we may be, to tell the president that this is not the government that we expect. You see, we function and operate from different parties, which parties aspire to take power one day through democratic avenues, but still we recognize that there is a government and it is our government, and that the president forms that government on our behalf. And to the extent that that government is dysfunctional, as we've said, we must tell the president that please, this is not it. And if there's somebody who is conditioning you that these are the people you must have in this government, please tell that person no. This is your tea party. It is your dance. Let him wait for his.
Okay. I'm looking forward, Ken, one time, that maybe during our lifetime or in the future, we will stop dealing with symptoms and deal with the real issues affecting this country. Like the things we've actually taken some time to debate about assassination and all those allegations. And I'm glad my friend, whom I have a lot of respect, is a lawyer. And, you know, the FBI were just called the other day, I think on Friday. He has just said that they are through with the report and they have already submitted. And my question is, where is the DCI? Because by now, we should be talking of suspects being arrested. Actually, some of the people who are being mentioned, you always meet them on the streets here. If there are people making such allegation, that's very serious. Secondly, I had another comment. I think it was from Barak that about 50 or 55 people meeting in a room
to conspire.
I don't know how many people are supposed to meet to do that because I have no experience of such plans. But I can assure you,
okay, we can take you through the history
because
of conspiracy.
Just a moment.
Caesar,
you've mentioned
to Kennedy,
you've mentioned a few people who have been assassinated in this country.
Abraham Lincoln.
If you were to tell us the team that assassinated Tom Mboya and how many were they? So assassination allegations, my friend, is very serious. And that's why we are saying it's now the responsibility of the DCI to come out.
56 people
to come out.
Sitting somewhere.
Because they were called to write a report. Is
talking
that right?
about the caliber of the gun that they will use, talking about whether they should use a machete, talking about the time, talking about where they should find this person. 56 people conspiring to kill.
I wish I just finished what I was saying, Barak. The other day I listened to you and you came out very well because I think it was Mheshimiwa Moses Kuria who said that they were planning, they were doing some meetings for development for Central Kenya. And you raised a very key concern. And you said actually, if it was in Western, now Eugene will meet with who? Those are the things that we need actually to look into. What are the really issues eating this country? When we talk of the cabinet, we've raised our concerns as citizens, senior citizens in this country, and the president has heard. We expect him to act. But we cannot come here, Ken, from January to December. We are discussing one thing. Are we moving forward? Are we rotating around?
If nothing
are we
has
giving
happened,
hope to the next generation?
If nothing has happened,
so
we need to continue with the conversation.
We must continue. That's why I'm saying somebody somewhere needs to act.
Okay.
Yes.
And that somebody somewhere should be the person who the buck stops in.
Yes.
You know, Ken, it's not as if the issues have not been framed. For instance, it also occurred to me, the issue that Barak raised, that it is curious for you to say that you are going to have a team of Mount Kenya cabinet secretaries discussing issues to do with development in Mount Kenya. So who is going to do the same thing for communities where probably
they don't have
a single CS in cabinet? Yeah. It is an important issue, but if we are really looking at the symptoms and we want to address the root cause, I believe that, for instance, the 9-point MOU that was signed between Raila and the president offers some basis for us to have that conversation. Okay. Because inclusivity, shared prosperity, those are the issues that were identified in that MOU. And we're saying, let us have a conversation. But it is usually very disheartening because people reject conversations. They say, we are not going to talk about X and Y. You will see them in the media saying, if this is what it is about, we are not going to talk. You are supposed to be a leader. You're supposed to tell us, given the experience we have had with the current structure of government, with the parliamentary system set up, the system of government that we have right now, why is it not possible for us to achieve gender parity, for instance, in the Houses of Parliament? What solutions do you prefer? And sometimes this is why even Barak knows. I even criticize some of the leaders, including his party leader. I say, really, as a leader, you cannot say, let us wait for the referendum question, for instance. You should be able to say that for me, this issue of gender has taxed this country. I think we can solve it in the following ways. For me, the problem with devolution is 1, 2, 3, and these are the solutions we want to propose. As a leader, you cannot sit back and say, let us wait for the referendum question. If it is about creating jobs for people, we will say no. I think that is the wrong attitude. Let's have a conversation.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Right of reply.
On that, yes. On that specific one, because we want to move on to one more topic, then we can end the show. Yes,
right of reply. And my brother Edwin here knows very well that we have made public pronouncements. In fact, bought space in the papers and said these are the areas that we think need to be addressed.
Okay.
And we have also said that we need to audit the Constitution and find out whether it has served us well, where it has not served us well, and refrain from looking as if we are pushing words and thoughts down people's throats.
Okay.
Yeah? So that in the end we can say these ones are referendable and these ones here are things we can sort out without going to a referendum.
All right. Over the last weekend also we had pronouncements from one of the leaders, Richard Lesiampe, who is a former principal secretary. And this is what he said. We have some interpretation, but I know you've heard what he said. So let's show this first. So what if I did it? So what if I stole? I stole from our enemies and I did this for you. He has come out today to deny these sentiments. In fact, he said that we do not understand the language he spoke, so we took it out of context. But we got the interpretation right from someone who understands the language. But this is the kind of things that happen with our leadership, and he's not the first person to come out and claim we're doing this on behalf of the people. Let me begin with you on what the former PS said.
I don't understand the language, but with the interpretation there, it's a bit interesting, if indeed that's what he meant. But again, the background, where he comes from, the kind of life, the culture. So,
can he explain?
No, just wait, Baraka. You know, at times is good. you know, this country, we are enemies of ourselves. If the day you wake up and know that my friend here is a Kenyan and I owe him a civic duty, it will be very important. Because if you can stand as a leader and say, I have stolen from an enemy, you've stolen from the public, and you're saying on a public media, is it something we need to debate here? Or is it something that right now people should be looking into it? What is it that he has stolen? Because he's bragging, he's now fat.
He's in court. He's in court, actually.
You see, yes. You see, such a like things. So let's wait and see the outcome of it. Okay. And actually, we have people who understand that language.
He didn't wait. He didn't wait himself to see the outcome of the court process. Yes. Why should we wait for him?
What I'm saying is, actually, we need to have responsible Kenyans. You and I, we are here. You are saying, that statement did not come from me, Mwambu Mabonga. If you were to call him here and say, what did he mean? What do you mean to Kenyans, what you're saying? It's so annoying. And listen, look, he was addressing people who are, I think, starving. People had no cloth even. And he's making that
their culture. That's the culture. That's the culture of the Samburu.
Even if it's a culture, you're saying, look at his lifestyle and look at the lifestyle of the people he was
addressing.
That is what I'm talking about, my friend. Okay. So let's have responsible leaders in position who can defend the public.
It is quite unfortunate if really he meant what the translation is indicating. I know for a fact that some of these languages, there are a lot of nuances and all sorts of things. If you hear my brother Mwambu speaking Kibukusu, and if you try to translate it, you will have a lot of difficulty. He's one of the best orators when he speaks Kibukusu. But it is quite unfortunate that those sentiments will come to a leader. But perhaps, Ken, it is also a reflection of where we are in terms of attitude, that people really treat public resources with such contempt. And there's this feeling that really Kenyans, there's nothing that you will do. We have known for a long time that some of the lagis we see people peddling around is not really the product of hard work. I liked what the president said in Narok during Madaraka Day, that we need to have a culture that praises the hard work that results in riches, as opposed to just celebrating the big cars and the money being splashed around without really questioning where this money is coming from. It is also reflective of the attitude that public servants have when it comes to public money and public resources. I think it's a foot-in-mouth opportunity. He probably should have consulted his lawyers before he said it. And I am sure that this retraction, similar as it is to the work attire incident, has come. He has come after his lawyers called him and told him, you are sabotaging our entire thesis in court.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, and Barak.
You know, I had hoped you'd not ask me because Richard Lesiampe is my friend, or at least he used to be my friend. I don't see much of him anymore. But I think this is extremely unfortunate. It's also a reflection of not just the culture. I was asking my brother here to elucidate. You know, in Emanyudia, if you come with a stolen cow, a cow you have raided somewhere, and you want to pay bride wealth for one of our girls, we will send you away with that animal. Elsewhere in this country, like in his culture, it is celebrated. You can actually tell your enemies that we will be coming to fetch the cows. And you will go and fetch the cows and bring them. And people will feel quite happy that you brought the cows. So there are cultural perspectives. But beyond those cultural perspectives at the national level, there's also a culture that has emerged and has gotten entrenched that we can say this is our thief.
Yes.
And if things are stolen, that it's only wrong to the extent that they have been stolen by somebody outside our moral community. Our moralities and our morals are relative to inside populations and external populations. So when an insider steals from outside, and government and anything outside our tribe is seen as another community, then it is quite in order. We must go beyond that culture and be able to see a thief as a thief, regardless of his or her ethnicity.
Right, we have a few minutes on the clock, and I'd like to discuss about something that took some time in Parliament last week. Let's take a listen at this, then we can discuss it.
Tutaingia kwa hizo maduka wanafanyia kazi, sisi tutawatoa, tutawapiga na tutawapeleka airport.
We are here, we must protect. We will not involve ourselves in hate speech. But this house must discuss. Kenyans' top professionals are not getting jobs in Tanzania. And I'll give an example. Vodafone International appointed Sylvia Mulinge as the head of Vodafone Tanzania. And the president of the government of Tanzania refused her.
We strongly condemn any reckless utterances that deviates from this firm position that define us as a nation.
Much as we may want to seek for publicity, for popularity, much as we would want to seek for votes, we must remember that the wider interest of the country overrides any other interest.
Right, wider interest of the country overrides every other interest. And I have to mention at this point that the person who was mentioned by the majority leader in Parliament, she has been trending the whole day. I know succession debate has begun at Safaricom with the demise of Bob Collymore, but she has been one of the topic of discussion today. I like your sentiments on this, xenophobia, possibility of that in the country, and the fact that these leaders are frustrated. I read frustrations. What do you read in the sentiments? For example, when you hear Jaguar or can you speak about that in public?
There is a frustration, although I also do agree that there are decorous ways of dealing with certain things. Because we must remember that two wrongs do not make a right. There is a sense in which our sisters and brothers in Tanzania have perennially mistreated us and exhibited xenophobia. When I was a young man, I remember we lived through many years of a closed border between Kenya and Tanzania, and there were no good reasons that could have justified the closing of that border for a very long time. We know that although we live in the East African community and that there are certain tariff regulations that inform relationship, movement of persons and goods within the community, that Tanzania has tended to be very difficult about them. We know that even when we have attempted to get into international contracts with, say, the European Union, As recently as 2 years ago, it was difficult, almost impossible to have those contracts signed. We know that even here where we are at the Nation Media Group, if we don't go very far away, at some time in the past you were bundled away from Tanzania, and it had to take a lot of begging and a lot of diplomacy. We know that we have seen our eggs being trampled upon and being burnt, chicken being burnt,
cows being auctioned,
being auctioned, and none other than the president of Tanzania justifying that kind of thing. And it's not beyond some of our more younger and hot-blooded leaders to go off on a tangent like that one, to fly off the handle, so to speak. But I think that these are things that ought to be handled in a more sober and more diplomatic way.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to agree largely with what Honorable Baraka said. In fact, as a lawyer, the words that came from my brother Jaguar's mouth are the textbook definition of incitement to violence. We do know that there are complex issues, as Baraka has elucidated, that we are dealing with. The fact that there is a feeling that foreigners are increasingly taking up jobs that Kenyans used to do, and it has been compounded by the fact that Kenyan youth themselves do not have much opportunity. I think we are looking at unemployment in the rates of, is it 60%? It is one of the highest in the world in terms of unemployment, and this feeling that the few opportunities that are there are being taken by foreigners is something that has to be addressed. I remember even when I was on the Council of the Law Society of Kenya, one of the biggest debates is that even though we have these protocols on free movement of labor within the region, there are some countries still where Kenyan lawyers or advocates cannot freely transplant their practices into. We were dealing with situations where we were increasingly issuing practicing certificates to people from Uganda, people from Tanzania, and yet there was no reciprocity from these brother countries. You have had the problem of the Chinese, and I remember Matiang'i taking action of deporting some of them. It is a serious problem. Immigration the world over is a big problem. You remember the big immigration debate in Europe a few years back that even informed very Brexit, catastrophic decisions such as Brexit. So it is not a simplistic issue, but as Barak says, it requires some sobriety when you're debating, because you should always remember that just like we host foreigners, we also have our brothers and sisters who are working across the border and who have found opportunities there. We do not want to put them at peril, because I think a member of parliament in Tanzania also saying that it is very easy, wakipiga watu wetu pia sisi tupige watu wao. And I don't think that is a sort of conversation we would like
with our neighbors.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even as you comment, this is what we have. We have the Toon Side segment. So this is what we have on the cartoon of the day. So even as you comment, I wanted your views specifically on this cartoon. It's just coming up. It's right there. So even as you comment on your point about this. About xenophobia, don't even look at Tanzania in itself.
No, I'm not even looking at Tanzania per se, but of course most of the issues within our region comes from Tanzania, and I want to agree with my colleagues here. There's a better way of dealing with that. Actually, I was looking for that that clip from Tanzania Member of Parliament. He actually, what Mheshimiwa Chapwa said is exactly what the Member of Parliament in Tanzania said in Parliament. It's exactly, and it's worrying. I wish to bring this to attention of the nation and people in charge of immigration. I was in a meeting in Geneva the other day, and actually when we were discussing some of this terrorism thing, it surprised me that actually somebody just highlighted that most of the people at times who are arrested, they happen to have Kenyan passports. So it's a concern. We need to secure our borders. And there is some sense of hopelessness. You can see, actually, Jakwa is representing a constituency, is representing a community. He's talking on behalf of people. That even the small things that Kenyans are supposed to do, they're being done by foreigners. And apparently they're protected in some way. So he's speaking on behalf of the people and many Kenyans who are frustrated.
Yeah.
So maybe the way he put it, that is what is a bit worrying.
Yeah.
But we need to look at it seriously. That is a concern in this country. We need to secure our borders, and we need to restore hope in many Kenyans who are suffering today.
Ken, in fact, just one final comment. I really wish that we would all agree that as a country we need to focus on these issues. It is extremely heartbreaking that Kenyan youth have lost hope so much. You saw the incident at Eka Hotel, that an advertisement of just 5 vacancies attracts a crowd. You would think there's a political rally there. That Kenyans have gotten to a place where they're so desperate. People are hiding in wheel wells of aircraft taking off from JKIA to try and find a better life somewhere else. So when you see us talking very painfully that we really need to stop all this noise about who needs to become president, please let us focus on the things that we promised our youth before. Okay. The million jobs that we promised, we want to see them, and stop this obsession with our political opponents or perceived future political opponents.
Okay. Even as we end, I'd like to give you an opportunity each, because Bob Collymore was cremated this morning, and it's been a sad thing for the country, the business community, and he worked, he's a global citizen. So even as we end, I'd like to give you an opportunity each, just to share with us what you remember about Bob, if you do.
Well, I think Bob Collymore epitomizes the very best that could come out of corporate management. He's run over the past close to 1 decade what is clearly the most successful blue chip company in the country and in the region, and running side by side with doing good work for the shareholders has been the corporate social responsibility, which has been felt virtually everywhere in the country. And you have seen that he's been able to blend the simple and the complex, from the boardrooms to the villages to the slums, mingling with simple, ordinary people. And I think in a manner that is very genuine. You know, you can tell when somebody pretends. Like if you stop in the street to buy roast maize that you're not quite persuaded about eating. It's not that kind of thing that you saw with Bob Collymore. He was very down to earth, and he will be missed terribly. May his soul rest in eternal peace.
Okay, and the succession debate, there's a lot of things to weigh in this. There is the interest of the majority shareholders on Safaricom, the Vodafone PLC. There's the interest of the government, probably give it to a Kenyan. There's an exclusive interview with one of the government officials. And there's the interest of Safaricom itself. Would you have something to say about the succession? You feel it's too early for that?
Yeah, usually I would feel that it was kind of too early. But I would also, of course you understand, normally we don't, where we come from, start talking about we stepping in somebody's shoes that quickly. It is seen as something not good at all. But beyond that, I think the board of management at Safaricom has told us that they knew that this was coming, and we have seen footage that gives us cause to believe that Bob Collymore himself had come to peace with himself and made peace with this God he knew he was going. And perhaps they have been thinking about that, and therefore one would hope that there would be smooth transition.
Okay.
Yeah, I got opportunity to send my condolences. I actually was on a show when the news broke, but of course I also take this opportunity to condole with his family, his loved ones, everyone at Safaricom. I feel like we as a party also need to make clear that even when we have differences or opinions on how corporates would have done things differently, it doesn't mean that we had any personal differences or vendetta against anybody working at Safaricom. So that some of these things that I'm seeing on social media are totally unfounded. We wish that his family is comforted. I think he was a very brave man. I suspect I might have met him maybe just once. I didn't know him.
Okay.
But death is scary. To your common or usual human being, death is very scary. Many of us do not think about our exit. We like to think that we will be here forever and we live as such. But really that is how you live your life, because it is something that is granted. All of us at some point must depart. So that we should be thankful for every day, which is why we insist sometimes, Ken, that we really shouldn't talk about tomorrow or 2022. All we pray is for God to give us life. On the question of succession,
daily bread.
Yes.
Not our 2022 bread.
Yes. On the question of succession, I must say the debate has been quite interesting. And I've been left asking myself certain questions. Of course, on the one hand, there is a feeling that really Kenya has the requisite talent to be able to just do just about any job. We have seen even Kenyans in very high positions outside the country running big organizations and corporations out there. But I have to ask myself, have we as Kenyans ruined our own reputations in the workplace?
Okay.
Have we as young people ruined our own reputations in workplaces that people feel they do not trust us? You see the sentiments that came out in the public about young leaders after what Jagwa said. There was a time when the president appointed my uncle, Mudi Awori, to some board, and when there was all this furor, he asked the question, or he said that you young people, when you're given opportunity to serve, all you do there is to go and steal and you ruin everything.
And yet we've never seen a young person in court.
Exactly. No, they have been. They have been. In fairness, they have been. But you see, which is why we say every day, like for me, I realize that as a young person, in any position of responsibility you are given now, like now I've been elected vice chair, if I ruin it, if I go about it in the wrong way, it is not Sifuna.
You ruin it for
is the young people. And probably this is the curse that we are all suffering, that probably we have ruined our reputation as Kenyans. We cannot be trusted with certain responsibilities.
Okay.
I believe it's generalization.
It is
but
not,
the people,
it is
the
not.
people
Look at the corporates, the corporations, the state-owned companies that we have brought down in this country.
I think, Barack, it's individuals. I don't think it is
It should
fair.
be collective, yes.
Yeah,
Blanket
to say that,
condemnation
no,
of young
let's
people.
look for a white person
It can't be
or
one
a foreigner to
individual.
be able to do
You
this.
look at Kenatco, you look at Kenya National Assurance, Kenya Trading Corporation, you look at Kikomi, you look at Kenya Titex Mills. You could go on.
You could mention several examples.
Yeah, the evidence stacks up, but all I'm saying is...
But really, the majority are still good people too.
Absolutely.
Those are
I believe so.
minorities.
I believe
yes.
so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Mheshimiwa.
Well, I have not had a close interaction with Bob, but there is one thing I've learned about him. I think looking at his history, he's a gentleman by excellence. And as my brother says here, he's very courageous because he was open enough to come to the public and actually tell them what he's suffering. He sort of was well prepared to face his maker. So he's a great man in my assessment. And again, I looked at his humble background, very humble. This is a man who, one time I actually listened to him on Chief NTVLive, and he said one of the most things he looks at young people when he's interviewing them, he looks at the talents. So he's a man who had really a lot of respect in talents.
Okay.
That does not mean by any chance trying to demean education, qualification or anything. But at least we need to come to a point whereby we can develop talent. We have talented young people across this nation. Something else I want to assume, because it didn't come out of him, he has been at the helm of Safaricom. When it was down, now it's almost 500% profit. I want to believe, because one of the qualifications of a leader is actually to prepare a successor. And actually that is what is lacking. Being a role model to many, because people have really talked well of him, I want to believe that he may, in his own wisdom, have raised maybe some people within the organization or even beyond, so that to take over from actually him. Actually, that is what lacking. Wherever you are, my friends, my colleagues, try to raise young people. But when your time of exit comes, you need to give way to fresh ideas. That is that's a clear communication, my friend. We are not just talking.
Absolutely.
I'm
doing it already.
You need to give room to that. So that is a gentleman, a courageous man. I want to assume that the things that are actually talking about succession in the board, he must be part of it if he was
must have given an input.
And lastly, we pray for his family, and above all, may his soul rest in eternal peace.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. I love the conversation this evening. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts in everything we have been able to discuss this evening. And let's do the final part of the show. And after our discussion tonight, only one conclusion that I can make, and make sense: the center can no longer hold because things have fallen apart. A few years ago, the current predicament was unthinkable. Now we know that 2 political outfits have been registered ahead of 2022. It's no longer in doubt that the 2 outfits could play a crucial role in the 2022 election, but they are not the subject of our time bar today. Let's take you back to August of 2016. President Kenyatta announced that all political parties allied to Jubilee Coalition will dissolve or fold up by September 12th. Now, on that particular month, September, political parties leadership agreed to join President Uhuru Kenyatta and launch one of the political vehicles that he was going to use, that Jubilee Party, and eventually it was used and he recaptured power with it. In the same month, that September, the opposition leader Raila Odinga was planning to form a super coalition with 5 parties, and it happened. Now, less than a month later, 13 parties allied to the Jubilee Coalition wound up in readiness for the Jubilee merger. It was to be named the Jubilee Alliance Party to beat legal hurdles. They had to do that. And 3 days later, a new party was launched. It pledged fairness and that the party will accommodate all and there will be no Godfather syndrome in the party. 3 years later, the cracks in this party is evident. So evident that there is an official Jubilee A and Jubilee B, SPLM. That's what he said. IG,
Jubilee IO.
And Jubilee IO. Better still, they're named Tanga Tanga and the other one is named as Kieleweke. A good place to end tonight's show. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you, gentlemen, for coming. Such a good conversation tonight. And hope to see you soon. Sifuna?
Yeah.
All right.
And tell Wamshomba that...
no, it's a disappointment she didn't come. Right. It's a disappointment. Yes. It's disappointed Wamshomba wasn't here. She should have been here.
She has given reasons.
No, she's not given reasons. She just apologized.
You don't apologize at the 11th hour.
When you meet a Luo carrying his briefcase, don't ask him whether he's going to work. Luos don't go to work. We attend to professional commitments.
Gangster, main rule. Avoid eye contact with your fans. Mutazoeana.
Mtu ako na homa, lakini kusiniza na sneeze, unashindwa hii ni homa ama ni nini? Unasikia,
December babes, haki si mnatusumbua. Hati yo sijui calm down is my birthday. Sijui all people were born the same but legends were born in December. Mbona mnajisikianga hivyo ama mnaonanga mkikaa kale kamkate ka mwisho?
Nani?
Shetani machana yeye.
Shetani mugani? Shetani mugani? Tebu tuone shetani mugani?
Johnny.
Oh, kametokwa ho. Hiyo ni private property. Awiti hiyo nakaa salon.
Kuja hapa, hakuna kitu nanunua hapa. Kuja. Awiti, my girl. Uko tu na spirit ya kupiga, si ndio? Unaona hiyo spirit? Beba unyo uende uoshe hiyo choo ing'are.
Take it. Relax.
I know I look amazing. It is my new hairdresser.
Taste imeweza na bei imeweza. Streetwise 2 is now at 350 shillings.
Wow.
2 pieces of original recipe or hot and crispy chicken and regular chips. It's finger-licking good. The Nation Leadership Forum is an interactive high-profile event which provides a platform to spotlight issues affecting Kenyans.
Open the news and you see Kenyans fighting over flour. It is life and death.
The forum has so far taken on different topical issues.
Men are running away from their responsibility.
The ladies have a sense of entitlement to these opportunities already. The boy child cannot take it anymore.
Manufacturing, election preparedness.
Can there be an incentive of how efficient that system is?
Food security, health.
Kenya, like the rest of Africa, is 50% short of doctors.
We want houses that are affordable at the same time habitable.
Education.
Education in any country is as good as the quality of the teachers.
And power of youth to drive progress.
How many of us have really gone to ask our youth, what are you passionate about?
We will be looking forward to most of the youth helping us so that the money goes into the pockets of the young people for purposes of their empowerment and not empowering a few merchants of Venice.
The Nation Leadership Forum focuses on finding possible solutions to the socio-economic issues experienced in the country.
We must plan together, reason together, and come up with solutions that will make us one proud, healthy nation.
Nation Leadership Forum, engaging society, impacting the nation.
NTV, turning on your world. The following program has been rated PG. It may contain scenes unsuitable for children under the age of 10.
I'ma keep it short and sweet. DJ play the song on repeat. Odi dance to the beat.
Right about now, you are rocking with the best. I cannot deny you know. I cannot deny you. Nah, you know. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Baby. This one for the true lovers.
Just in love music. Hey, mi amor. Baby.
Yeah.
Ningekuanga tai dunia. Oh mi amor. Ila ndo sijajelewa. Sina la kuofa zile mapenzi ya dhati.
Hali yako naielewa. Wala usijali, nimekubali ulivyo. Kwako nimeloa, lidhani nitaelea nikajisamia.
Masheri, hata nafasi na sana yo, baby, my honey. Hata balobi natika yo, jamais.
Masheri, hata nafasi na sana yo, baby, my honey. Hata balobi natika yo, jamais. Usulako baba ni sawa, sawa.
Alimradi niko na wewe. Yeah. Alimradi niko na wewe.
Yeah. Alimradi niko na wewe. Yeah. Alimradi niko na wewe. Yeah.
Hatuna kinsa speni la twalala. Ila zambaga ila twala. Leridhi ya moyo. Penzi lako la thamani.
Hatuna king size bed ila twalala. Baga ila twala. Meridhi ya moyo. Kwa penzi lako la thamani.
Masheri, hata nafasi na sana yo, baby, my honey. Hata balobi natika yo, jamais.
Mashari, hata nafasi na sana yo, baby, my
like you, baby, every nikelele. El rice, Pepe nango zaliki toko mama, yeah, 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 yeah. Pepe nango leki pango na kote, yeah, yeah, yeah. Alinga, linga, linga, nunga. Na lova, 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 nanga. Na zala, 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 na yo, my baby. Palala, 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 palala.